Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for August 11th. We have a quorum, so we can begin. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Maloney.
Present.
Vice Mayor Pearson.
Present.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Orlemans.
Here.
Mayor Meyer.
Here, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are going to start with a presentation by REACH Project. I'd like to welcome Mickey Marchetti, Executive Director, and the REACH Project team, and invite them to the podium. Did I say that right?
Marchetti.
Marchetti, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Meyer, council members, city staff, members of the community audience. Thank you for the time tonight. We know it's a busy agenda as always. So we put together some information, keeping it to the salient points and recognizing your busy schedule tonight, while allowing for some time, certainly for some question and answer at that time, asking our the REACH staff if they will join me. I think they could probably better answer many of the questions or some of the questions than myself. In thinking about some brief opening comments of tonight's presentation, the words came to mind, and I certainly mean this sincerely, that I think REACH Project is here in part because it owes a heartfelt thank you to you for the trust that you put in our work with the Brentwood Police Department in working with its youth. We don't take that lightly. We've been working with the Brentwood Police Department in this way, conducting the juvenile diversion program since 2004. So we're longstanding. The organization here in East County has been in operation for 55 years, since 1970. So we're here tonight to be sure that you all, our leadership, members of the city staff again, and the community have some basic information about the juvenile diversion program and how REACH Project works with the Brentwood Police Department. So the juvenile diversion program, simply said, serves as an alternative for the police department that it would not otherwise have. The program duration is 3 to 9 months. The participation plan are all individualized. And so what happens, if you kind of follow me from, say, I was going to say an incident. Sorry, I can't think of a better word, but some sort of occurrence that involves a police response, that young person, let's say, is eligible for diversion. Our staff people, including person sitting behind me, would meet with the family. It's completely voluntary, knowing that it's a commitment on their part. I mean, 3 to 9 months is not, a Saturday and that kind of thing. So it is voluntary. It's explained by the police department president at the family meeting what the benefits are, which include avoiding consideration for referral into the juvenile justice system, if in fact that's something that might be warranted or relevant to consider. Within the REACH program and in a 3 to 9 month duration, it moves into a behavioral healthcare model. So this addresses anger management, what's referred to in our field as protective factors in communication and strengthening family. If need be, there's levels of intense services around treatment that might include mental health, substance abuse disorder, and that kind of thing. So there's a screening that takes place, an assessment, and again, this was all with parents' approval. The structure of REACH Project around the behavioral health model includes licensed clinical staff oversight that approve treatment plans, medical director sign off on services, particularly at the intensive level. And all services are at no cost to families, I'm pleased to say. And this is thanks to the quality really of the work that we do with the Brentwood Police Department in qualifying for federal, state, and county funding that is ongoing. I mean, it's year-to-year budget allocations and contracts, but it's not time-specific. It's not like a grant where it might run out. So there's that continuity there that has allowed 55 years and 22 years here working within the community. So we very much appreciate being able to work here with the department. Appreciate your support, and glad we had an opportunity to present, so you find out just a little bit about us. So maybe I'll pause and see if there are any questions from the council, and maybe we can have our staff come up and help me answer.
We have a question from Councilmember Maloney.
Hello, thank you for your presentation and thank you for your collaboration with our police department. One of the questions that I have is I see, for example, youth diversion, and I do see, what does EPSDT stand for, 10 to 21 years? On our screen right there. What does that stand for?
That's a program, early pre-screening, diagnostic, and treatment.
Okay, got it.
It's a spot-on question, and it is a treatment-focused model.
Okay. When we do have some issues that happen at schools or whatnot involving our youth, they obviously go to the police department, and the diversion is through your program. I am concerned that there isn't anything for maybe youth that don't meet any of these categories. So is there any type of like maybe communication, emotional intelligence type of courses that there is the generation right now, especially the youth, they're all on their phones, so their communication skills lack, and that's going to cause disagreements and whatnot with fights. So I don't feel that it's necessary if you have someone that has those kinds of issues, all of a sudden is being put in a drug rehabilitation program or something in that perspective. Like, do you have that? Could it be maybe added if it's not there? Because I don't feel every single situation that maybe the youth has the service that it needs here.
Hi, my name is Alex Granados. I'm the supervisor at the Brentwood facility. Yes, we do. We have prevention. So basically, that's individuals who do not meet the criteria for a substance use disorder. Behavior modification, just basically dealing with some behavioral issues, challenges at school. So we do have that type of form of a program. It's called prevention, where we focus more on behavior modification than we do substance use. Most individuals who do meet or go to prevention do not have a history of substance use. They might have just behavioral issues, anger issues, don't know how to decision-making issues, stuff like that. So, and we also don't just receive referrals from the Brentwood Police Department to our diversion program. We also have voluntarily. Parents can come in and enroll their children without going through the process of police station or any type of citation or any issues with the police department. So we do have that kind of route where basically parents can just come in and ask for services, and we will provide them with the service that the child criteria meets. So that's kind of what we have.
So
Hopefully
let's say
that answers the questions.
Let's say if there is a youth member that maybe got in a fight, would that automatically go into prevention if they don't meet the other issues? Or would you still put them in, like, kind of refer them to drug diversion and anger management and all that? Because I don't feel that all fights come from those aspects.
True. So basically, like we say, when we do get a referral from the police department, say it was a fight at school, basically the parents will come in with their child and basically will ask questions regarding if there is any substance use and any concerns with the parents regarding substance use. If there is, basically we'll also do an assessment to see if they meet criteria. Not every child meets criteria for substance use. Some people are experimenting, social using, so that doesn't meet the criteria of a substance use disorder. So we do put them in prevention. So the majority of our adolescents come in usually do prevention services.
What if it's directly referred from the police department? Does the parent have a say whether they go through prevention or the youth diversion?
They do, however, we don't, if the child has a history of substance use, and, we don't like to put individuals who have history of substance use with individuals who don't have a history of substance use. So we try not to put them together just basically because the individual with substance use history might need more services or more intensive services. So that's what we do. We kind of, in a way, separate the individuals basically on their needs, individually needs. That's kind of what we do.
Okay, thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
Marilyn, anything to add?
Yeah, and we don't just get referrals from the police department, we also get referrals from the school district. We work very closely with the SAR board. So we do help a lot of youth that might just be struggling with attendance issues. And through those referrals, we also decide case by case which program best fits that child or that youth.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
And
Yeah.
one more thing I want to say. And we have support for parents too.
Yes.
So that's very important. Because when we meet with the parents and we become a team, we feel like then we can help the kid.
Is there a difference in treatment or referrals if the child's being brought in through the police department or the parents?
What do you mean difference?
So you said that there are resources for parents and,
when
obviously
the-
parents get to advocate for
When the family comes together, at a meeting, then we invite the parents too. We invite them if they would like to participate, and then it will be their decision.
Okay, and if it's
And-
referred through the police department, how does that work?
Same thing, we will invite them too.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say, I know you guys are doing your job, but I am here, I'm shaking. I don't even know how this got on the agenda. I'm a little angry right now. It's triggering for me. My son was assaulted in a bathroom at one of our high schools. It was put on social media, and when he went out to defend himself and asked someone to take the video down, and the person said no, he defended himself. He was referred by our Brentwood SRO to the REACH program, and it was almost a threat that he was a kid who was a former police explorer here in Brentwood, who was doing good, who serves his community and his school, was now being referred to a program or told he was going to be referred to the district attorney's office. He had never had anything. So it is funny that we're having this presentation because I sat in a school interagency meeting with Councilmember Maloney, and I was told that our school district doesn't use the REACH program or doesn't go through this process. Now, I'm angry because, one, African-American and Latino children are referred 15 times more to programs like REACH specifically than white children are. So I'm really pissed off right now that the communities get fed fluff. For our juvenile diversion program, when we sat in there with two people here in front of me, it almost felt like we were being strong-armed to a school-to-prison pipeline system. That basically, our son has not had any drug issues were posted on social media, and he defended himself. When kids get in a fight back in the day, we allowed them to go to remediation to talk it out. But instead, two African-American boys were referred to a program that they were going to be referred to the district attorney's office. Less likely that white kids would be. So when I asked the race of the counselors, there were not Black counselors that were going to counsel my Black boy when he defended himself, when our police officer said, if it were me, I would have did the same thing. I asked our police officers at the time, because I was not vice mayor, I was mom, which is more dangerous when I appeared. What would you have done if it were a girl? And she was in the restroom and someone recorded her and posted on social media. I probably would not have referred that girl. She would have punched somebody. So we have gender bias here. And I have a big problem with this program. And I was told by our superintendent of schools, oh no, we don't use this program. After we send the kids and they sit and mediate. And so I'm concerned, and I'm going to make a future agenda item request. And this is not on your other two items. Kudos to trying to provide services. But the problem that I have is how they get to you. it is at the discretion of the officer at the time of a fight to determine who goes to the REACH program or not. Some fights are sent to juvenile diversion and some are not. So it's not to you and your program. Kudos to your program. But I don't think we as a city should make that distinction. It should be in the, and I was told in that room that, and our chief also said, nope, we are done with it. We are not making the referrals to REACH. So I'd love to know, how often are we? No, it was right now. And I'm not trying to disparage Walt. I love Walt. But he said, we're not doing that. Nope, I think it should be handled at the school level. So I am very concerned right now as I sit here as a person. My household has not been the same. My child has not been the same. Counseling after counseling, because he was afraid he was gonna now be put into this system. And thank God he has a parent that's a judge and a parent that's a lawyer who said, hell no. We sat there and said, absolutely not. Thank you, but no thank you. We are not gonna put him in a system when he's not been exposed to stuff and expose him to people who've been exposed to it. In addition to it, as just in general, as a woman of color, I am concerned about if we're referring children of color at higher rates than we do than white children or anybody else. So thank you for your presentation. Thank you for what you do. But my concern in the city of Brentwood is we need to end the relationship until we get a better system to make sure that our referral system is equivalent and equal for all kids. So that's gonna be my future agenda item request tonight. It's not to disparage your company, and thank you for your presentation, but I have a problem with how you guys get referrals.
Well, and I guess my question to follow up with hers is, the presentation was lacking. I would like to see demographics. Race of the child, what did they do? Like there's categories of probably what they did. And also, how does your funding work? Who pays you? Like, where's the money coming? Does the city ever pay you? Does the county pay you? And do you have quotas?
No quotas. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll read it. Yeah, no quotas. No, I say, sorry, a ticket out of order. Absolutely not. The funding process I just briefly mentioned earlier is a combination of federal and state, with some county funds who have it within the scope of their, community funding programs to support the kind of work that's going on. And
So do they pay you a bulk sum, or are you paid by head count?
we have service contracts, and it is based upon a qualified service, meaning that it meets certain criteria, then it's a billable time, then it would be a billable hour.
See, that's my concern, is there's an incentive to increase your head count, to increase your funding, right? Because it's correlated, is what it sounds like. So if we could get, you're gonna have your future agenda item, and we'll probably work with staff to get, I wanna understand demographics, age, gender, and then funding. Exactly how you're funding, how much you're getting from the state, how much you're getting from the federal, how much you're getting from the county, and what is the lever for each funding source? So is it just a blank grant, like per year you get an amount, or is it based on the number of kids in the program?
Sure.
Because I understand what you're trying to do, but it does concern me, and that's one of the reasons, like, not having the demographics in the report is a little bit, it doesn't tell me what I want to know. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Great, thank you.
We're going to move into public comments. The public comment time for tonight's items will be 3 minutes each. To ensure that all speakers feel welcome to share their views, members of the audience are kindly requested to refrain from applauding or speaking to the council from the audience without being called upon first. In addition, in order to maintain decorum and ensure that no one's sight is obstructed, public commenters are reminded to not approach the dais.
At this time, members of the public are permitted to speak to the council on items that are not listed on the council agenda, items on the consent calendar, or future agenda items, or requested agenda items, future requests. Sorry, I lost my note card for a moment, but I'll start with the speakers. Sahil?
Hello, City Council staff and City Council members, and thank you for letting us present some brief remarks regarding the work of our Youth Commission.
First, hello everybody. My name is Sahil.
And I am Oro.
This is our second year as commissioners of the Brentwood Youth Commission, and now let's delve deeper into what we're doing.
Right now, the Youth Commission has just transitioned into our next term, with almost half the commission comprising of new faces.
The large amount of new commissioners, each with their own vision and agenda, has enabled us to recalibrate our priorities to be mainly of rapid internal and external communication enhancements, along with the general remodeling/revamping of the Youth Commission procedures.
This includes many systemic radical changes being considered on the floor, including the revamp and the replacement of one of our oldest events, such as the middle school pool party.
Overall, considering the current circumstances, this year is on track to be one of the Commission's best, given the influx of new ideas and innovative visions. Coupled with these new developments, the Youth Commission has just conducted its major executive committee elections.
The Executive Committee is a four-member committee inside of the Youth Commission that contains our chairperson, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. The Executive Committee is also in charge of reviewing the scholarship and awarding it to members of the youth.
Every commissioner was given a chance to nominate themselves or another commissioner for any of the aforementioned roles. After the voting was conducted, we had a major executive committee shakeup, which each of the positions saw a new member in their spot compared to last year. This encompassed the general atmosphere for reinvention in the Youth Commission. Out of these 4 posts, I was gladly able to secure the role of secretary. The elections were conducted smoothly and in a courteous manner that displayed unity and the strength of the commission. Finally, we would just like to give a big thank you to Madam Mayor Meyer and to the whole City Council for allowing the commission for their amazing guidance.
And for their support to all our initiatives all these years.
Now with that, thank you City Council staff and City Council members. We yield the floor.
Next speakers are Rich, followed by Rudy, followed by Paul.
My name is Rich Ramirez. I'm the son of Rudy and Yolanda Ramirez. We're going on close to 11 months since my mom was killed by Aaron Peachman of the Brentwood Police Department. His use of excessive force wasn't justified given the crime because there was no crime. In the coroner's inquest on July 15th, they showed the video. Saw a lot of reactions. One of them was Thomas. I sat near him, I saw his reaction. Saw a lot of other people in that trial weeping because people know what happened to her was wrong. Taking a look at some of the law enforcement officials in here, if they would have responded to that call, they probably would have handled that way differently. Again, we're going on 11 months. The council has been silent, giving bureaucratic process as their excuse. Need you to grow a spine. Jovita, do something. Pat Tanisha, do something. Susanna, do something. Faye, do something. Tony, do something. My mom should still be alive. I shouldn't have to come here. We should be at home. My mom should still be alive. And a couple of things about our family, we don't give up. Some things about me, I'm relentless. And I don't mind being the underdog. We want justice. Justice for Yolanda!
Here I am again. And I know you guys are probably getting tired of seeing me, but you know what? They scheduled the case for 2028, so I'll be coming here a lot. If not once, twice a month. The landscape has already changed. We got a new city attorney because the one that got you guys all in trouble is gone. We have a new acting city manager, because why? What happened to the other one? You guys are dysfunctional. And from that dysfunction comes tragedy. And that tragedy was my wife. I shouldn't be here talking to you guys that don't really care. I should be home holding hands with her, watching TV. But no, I have to come in here and talk to you guys. And sometimes it seems hopeless. I miss my wife every day. I'm so lonely. And why? Because she broke a coffee cup? The arresting officer lost control. I was surprised to learn he had over 20 years on the force. I thought he was a rookie the way he was acting. He was acting like my wife had beat somebody to death. He was acting like my wife stole something important. She was there to try and help her brother. Peachman came in and lost control. She ended up dead. She suffered the last 45 minutes of her life, couldn't breathe. They threw her in the police cruiser, stomach down. She couldn't breathe. You see her struggling. And for what? A broken coffee cup? And because your 20-year veteran on the police force lost control? Do they go through any counseling after they are involved in a death like that? To see if maybe he may have some issues that nobody knows about? Maybe he's drinking. Peachman might be drinking. Is he doing drugs? Is he cheating on his wife? What caused him to lose control of the situation? He was the arresting officer, and he just, if you see the video, if anybody's interested, it's on YouTube. Yolanda Ramirez died in custody, and you'll see how they acted towards her. You see her at times just standing there looking, and then she was confused as to why she was being arrested. That's how she ended up dead. She didn't know that you're supposed to be afraid of the police. Amen. I hope it never happens to any of you. It's a sorry, sad state.
On September 26th is when my sister-in-law, Yolanda Ramirez, I say she died on that day. That's when Officer Peachman brutalized her, a 72-year-old grandmother, wife. And when you think about why, and you see the video, it's shocking. And so that was September 26th. It wasn't until November 12th when the family came to the city council and you were all here. And we told you that our family attorney had already interviewed witnesses. Your department, your chief of police had not done one thing. November 12th. And you know what? After the city council meeting, November 13th, a van load of police officers showed up in that neighborhood and started interviewing witnesses. That's your police department. Also, the family attorney asked for the report. She got nothing. And then the city attorney, your chief of police, said the report that they came out that was full of lies said they followed protocol. Tell me if I'm lying. They followed protocol. That meant that a 72-year-old grandmother was okay being killed. And for what? The family came to you for assistance. The city attorney ran from here, took another job. But you guys, the city council, kept your heads buried in the sand. There was only one individual, actually, for the city council that reached out to us and sat down and talked to us. That council member said that she had 2 votes for coroner's inquest. We believed Faye, slightly. Obviously, nothing came of it. So the family
asked for a coroner's inquest. The family asked for the DA to investigate her death, and the DA did. The findings of the coroner inquest was not natural causes, it was accident. And then the question is, why? Who did the accident? It was your police officer that you still have on the force. And he admitted at the coroner's inquest, oh, yeah, she did hit her head on the frame of the car that caused her brain bleed. Never gain consciousness, never to talk to her son, never to talk to her husband. And you guys were okay with all of that.
And still are.
You are as guilty as the officers that killed Yolanda Ramirez.
The next speakers I have is Laura, followed by Danny, followed by Greg.
Bro, fight it, do something.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I want to address something more fundamental than the DSP, the standards of conduct expected from those who sit on this dais. Elected officials have the right to disagree with constituents and vigorously defend their positions, but there's a line between vigorous debate and conduct that ridicules, demeans, intimidates, or retaliates against a citizen for expressing an opposing viewpoint. At the July 28th meeting, Pat Nisha referred to those opposing changes to the DSP, including my objection to changing it for one particular business, as sounding like Make America Great language. What exactly does that mean? I oppose the change because I believe the city's rules should be applied consistently, particularly when a business has been operating outside the existing requirements. That's a legitimate policy position. It should not be mocked or politically characterized. When an elected official uses the authority and visibility of the dais to aggressively criticize or chastise residents for their viewpoints, the issue becomes more than hurt feelings. It can create a chilling effect, just like you're looking at your phone now, Pat Nisha. No resident should have to wonder whether disagreeing with a council member will make them the target of a personal attack. Public participation suffers when people become afraid to speak honestly. There's also another matter requiring clarification. June 11, 2024, before discussion of Brentwood on ice, Pat Nisha recused herself, stating she was an attorney with clients, including Tom Gregory. Yet, on the last meeting, July 28th, she stated she did not represent him and that her husband did. Those statements appear inconsistent, so what's the explanation this time? I am not making an accusation, I'm asking for clarity, because public officials have an obligation to maintain public confidence. And finally, professional accomplishments. Being an attorney, judge, council member, vice mayor, or holding other positions do not place anyone above scrutiny. Once you sit on this dais, you are an elective representative of the residents of Brentwood and absolutely nothing more. Your resume does not give you greater standing than those citizens sitting in this audience. You don't have to like what we say. You don't even have to agree with us, but you do have to respect our right to say it. And an aside, thank goodness Thomas demonstrated appropriate decorum by disengaging rather than participating in your theatrics. This is the kind of decorum we should expect on this dais. The dais should be a place where citizens feel safe to speak, not a place where citizens learn to remain silent. And public office is supposed to be a position of public trust. I'm hoping that when you're this mediator as a judge, an administrative judge, you take that into account going forward. Thank you.
Danny.
I need to lose a couple of pounds. Okay, before I begin, Madam Vice Mayor, I had the same issue with my kid in 2006 at Heritage. I think your future agenda items should include our school district. Now, this is a night of ironies. The last time a discussion was held regarding the raise of a city manager's salary, I ranted about paying the $250,000 man for doing nothing. Tonight, you're going to discuss raising the salary for the current city manager, a raise for doing nothing. Same agenda item, two different rants. $69,529.17, give or take. That's what we've paid the city manager to date for doing nothing. $69,529.17, more or less. That's what we've paid while a group of individuals, including this guy, who for the life of me is even in the room. Which reminds me, I asked questions at the last meeting to which I have yet to receive an answer. As a reminder, here are the questions. Why is he in these discussions? I remind everyone again that Katie never participated in the last city manager investigation. What is his relationship with the municipal polling authority? Or yes, polling. And if there is even an adjacent relationship, does this not constitute a conflict of interest? Hell, you guys can give me the answer tonight in open session. When do you plan on interviewing the city manager? I don't expect an answer to that either, but I want to put it to the public. He and his lawyer are waiting. Fourth, do you realize the ramifications and repercussions of your actions against this man's character? Again, don't expect an answer tonight. You haven't had a closed session regarding this man in at least 4 weeks. $34,764.38, give or take. That's how much money will be spent before the next possible closed-door meeting. And that's if you hold it on August 25th. That's almost $100,000 before you next meet again. That will be spent. And just to let you know, the city manager has been keeping tabs. He's not sitting on the sidelines drinking Mai Tais. Like me, he cares for this city. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, and the residents of Brentwood. I am here, my name is Greg Robinson. I am here today with the Brentwood Press. I first want to apologize to my little outburst last week. Sometimes sitting out there, hearing up here, it's really tough to stay quiet, and I do apologize for my outburst. With that being said, in the past, I've heard from the dais a few times that some misinformation that I just want to clarify for the people who are listening and watching this meeting. And it has to do with a few things. One of them is that there's been times where it's been mentioned that the city of Brentwood does not have a visitors center, and that we were hoping to get one with the new women's club. To my knowledge, I don't believe that it's open to the public, or is there a visitor center. But the good news is that we have one in the city of Brentwood. And for 25 years, on the corner of Oak and First is a lobby that is opened Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and staffed with an employee that knows this area like the back of her hand. And every day, people walk into that office and ask her questions. Matter of fact, today, somebody came in and asked, "Where's the city hall?" And I had to tell them, it's just right over there, right? They ask about different things, and I just realized that I left my packet in the car, but I think I kind of remember what most of the stuff are. But we have things in there like Tri-Delta Transit schedule, the harvest time schedule, the City of Brentwood Senior Center newsletter. We even have postcards. Did you guys know that we sell Brentwood postcards at our community center in the city of Brentwood at the press building? So that's what I wanted to just make sure that everybody's aware that we do have it. Come and check it out. And if you have a an item or something that you'd like to put in the visitor center, feel free to bring it to us. As long as it's not like a business promotion, but we're there to promote all the nonprofits, the schools, the churches, and we do that. There's even a community weekly newspaper that people love to read, right? Secondly, I only have 30 seconds. There was a mention that we do not have a community calendar. I want everybody to know, go to the website, thepress.net, where there is a free community calendar. It's been live for about 10 years. And we have not only the local people using it, but people from Stockton and San Francisco and Livermore who have found this website and want to attract the people in Brentwood to come to their events. So again, I'm just reminding everybody, if you have an event that's open to the public, it is free to post on thepress.net. And we look forward to seeing you all soon.
At this time, any members participating via Zoom who would like to make a public comment may raise their hand now. I have no hands raised in Zoom. Tracy, I have you for F5, but if you'd like to make a general public comment as well. Gotcha, absolutely.
One of the two white women who spoke in Make America Great language. I'm wondering, Pat Nisha, if you would have said the same thing if I was Black. But no, I think you would have said something different. And I think that you're so worried about people being prejudiced that perhaps you're the one, because there was no reason why you needed to say that. And let me tell you another thing. I worked for a real judge for 30 years in the federal courts. And I'll tell you one thing, not one of those judges would have spewed such garbage. And how dare you assume that I'd be the type of person to say such a thing? Because I want to let you know that I'm a Democrat. So, you know, I wouldn't be using "Let's Make America Great," but had you known me, you would have known that, as opposed to just saying it. And you had asked people to come up and say it to your face. You welcomed that, so here I am. I'm telling you to your face. And it's one thing, I wish we didn't have a child in the chamber. But I'm going to tell you what you did was despicable. And you brag about being a judge. Well, I know what a real judge is. Okay? I worked for 3 of them. And my last federal judge, 26 years. I worked in a federal courtroom. I know decorum. But since I'm retired, I don't have to act nice. Unlike this lady, I was polite. She was polite in both times. I was actually polite at the last meeting and then get treated that way. So today I don't feel like being polite. And I think I have a right to be upset, because what if it was you, a Black woman, told something offensive because they don't agree with you? How would you feel? Oh, you would be all up in arms because there was being prejudiced and being discriminated. Well, you know what? You just did that to me. That's how I feel. So all I have to say is, your administrative judge, maybe you should go to a real courtroom and figure out how to act.
I have no additional speakers or hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you, Amanda. Moving into the consent, staff recommends that City Council continue items E3 and E4 to the next regular City Council meeting of August 25th, 2026. Do we have any other questions or concerns about items on consent?
Nope.
We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Through the mayor, if I could ask that we include the continuation of those 2 items in the motion.
Absolutely. The continuation of item E3 and E4.
Thank you.
The rest of the consent calendar to be approved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to business items. Casey Weckert, Director of Public Works, will present the next item regarding the purchase of 5 solid waste collection trucks.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. In June, the City Council directed staff to enhance the solid waste service levels by increasing the green waste and organics collection from biweekly to weekly service. To successfully implement that direction, we need to purchase additional garbage trucks. So tonight, staff is requesting your approval for the purchase of 5 new garbage trucks. These additional trucks are necessary because we have over 73,000 carts in service, not including dumpsters and commercial roll-off bins. Currently, 21,000 brown carts are serviced weekly, and over 52,000 blue and green carts are serviced bi-weekly. Altogether, staff services 47,000 carts each week. Transitioning the green carts from bi-weekly to weekly service means we'll have to collect an additional 12,500 carts each week. And each residential truck route can service about 900 carts a day or 4,500 carts a week. So in order to collect the additional 12,500 carts, we need to add 3 new collection routes. The existing fleet of split body trucks shown in the top picture will collect the brown and the green carts weekly. The new trucks we're requesting tonight are shown in the bottom picture, and they will be single body side loading trucks that will only collect recycling. In order to minimize the impact to residents for these new routes, we'll do our best to make sure that there's no changes to the existing service days. Staff is recommending the purchase of 5 McNeilus Volterra all-electric residential side-loading collection trucks. These vehicles are different from the existing diesel trucks that we currently have, and they comply with the California Advanced Clean Fleets zero-emission regulations. We've been preparing to convert the city's vehicle fleet from internal combustion engines to EVs, and this purchase advances that transition. As you can see in the photo on the right, the installation of the grant-funded EV charging station at the Municipal Service Center is nearing completion and will be in service when these new EV garbage trucks are received. And some additional good news is the estimated lead time of these particular EV trucks is only 6 to 8 months, as opposed to staff's original estimate of 12 to 18 months for the split-bodied diesel trucks that we currently use. When council initially approved this service increase, the staff estimated cost of the new trucks to be about $900,000 each. The final cost of the EV trucks came in above this estimate at just under $977,000 each, for a total of $4.885 million, which is $385,000 above the original budget estimate. Included in this request tonight is authorization for a solid waste enterprise budget amendment of $385,000 to accommodate this purchase. I am pleased to report that after this agenda item was prepared, our provisional fleet manager was able to identify 2 funding sources that will decrease the purchase price of each truck by approximately $290,000. So we don't think we'll need the full allotment of this money, but we're going to go ahead and ask for it tonight because we don't have those rebates secured yet in writing. The California Clean Fuel Reward and the voucher incentive programs are funded through the California Air Board, and they differ from traditional grants in that they operate as discounts through the retailers. We were notified late last week that roughly $800,000 in savings has been locked in, with another roughly $650,000 in additional savings pending approval from the Air Board. If this item is approved tonight, we'll work with the retailer and apply the savings to the cost of the purchase. And with those savings included, the overall purchase price will be reduced to approximately $3.4 million. And this purchase will come from cash reserves with no rate increase necessary. So to summarize, staff is requesting council adopt a resolution that approves the purchase of 5 new EV garbage trucks, amends the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, and authorizes the city manager or designee to execute the necessary purchase documents. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Casey. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, and I sent it to both of you via email. Can you talk a little, I received a question about the impact on the road because they're heavier. Can you talk a little bit to the public about the impacts on the road? Because if you haven't watched social media, the quality of our roads is actually like a big hot topic.
Sure, great question. I do have some information for you. These EV trucks are slightly heavier than the diesel trucks that we have. They're a couple thousand pounds heavier. But because we're only going to use these trucks for recycling, recycling is less dense and less heavy than yard waste and garbage. So when the trucks are full, they're actually going to weigh less than the existing trucks that we have. So we don't anticipate any additional impacts to the roads. This will add 3 additional trucks to the roads. It'll be slightly more traffic, but it won't be any heavier or more impactful. So we don't anticipate anything more than just a negligible impact.
Okay. And you're not retiring any trucks, you're just doing an incremental 3 trucks?
That's correct. All of our existing routes will stay in place. We will be adding these trucks to have 3 new routes to collect the recycling.
Okay, great, thank you.
My question is the assumption of probability for these rebates.
We're told that we have the largest majority of them in place now. We're waiting on one more signature to go through Terrence's desk, and when that goes back to the retailer applies for the rebates through CARB, or the Air Board. So all of the conversations that we've had with the retailer and with the Air Board are that they will be funded. It's just a matter of processing the paperwork. It's through existing programs that they already have. So we are relatively confident we'll get it. We've been told we're locked in for $800,000 so far, but we'll see that when we get a revised quote from the manufacturer.
Thank you. And what would happen to maybe our chances to receive those rebates if council turned down this request tonight?
Well, we'd only get the rebates if we purchase the truck. So if we don't move forward with the purchase, those rebates won't happen. It's not a grant. It's not funding that we get. It's a decrease in the price of the truck.
Okay. And then as far as compliance with legislation?
If we don't buy EV trucks, we have to purchase 50% of every vehicle that we buy between now and 2030 has to be EVs. So we would have to have a higher portion of the remaining fleet be EVs. Part of these EV trucks were anticipated through the grant funding that we got for the charger network as well. So there might be some impacts to that we'd have to back out of. So there are some implications if we don't move forward with this, but we haven't completely fleshed those out.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Can you just talk a little bit about why we're doing the 5 new trucks, just to kind of refresh our public's memory? It's because the changes that we're doing.
Sure. So the reason we're asking for 5 trucks, even though we're only going to add 3 routes, is we have to have backup trucks. These trucks are big, heavy machinery. They break down quite often. Our existing fleets have a substantial backup fleet with them. So we have 10 residential routes, but I have 15 trucks. And at any given time, some of those trucks are in for maintenance or in for repairs or whatever. So the last thing we want to do is have to go find a rental garbage truck on short notice. So in order to make sure that we can always service the garbage throughout the city, we have to have an adequate fleet of backups. So even though we're only going to do 3 routes, we're going to ask for 5 trucks.
And this will also help in the plan of moving into weekly collection, correct?
This will accommodate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Question.
One more question.
What is the shelf life on the trucks?
Our typical trucks have a scheduled lifespan of 10 years, about 10 years, and I think we typically get pretty close to that. We will rotate some of them out to be backups out of the daily use and into the backups when they approach that 10-year lifespan. But unless we have a truck that has significant problems, they mostly all last 10 years. We have no reason to believe the EVs won't last that long. They come with some pretty good warranties from the manufacturers, but they are relatively new on the road. So we don't have a lot of history to go on, but we're pretty confident that they won't be any worse than any other EV on the road. And I happen to drive one of those, and I think they're pretty good. So we don't anticipate any issues with shelf life.
No other questions? We can move into public comments, please.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. We'll take comments from those participating in chambers first, followed by those participating via Zoom. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes. I have no speaker cards in person, and I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you, Amanda. Any council discussion or a motion?
I can make a motion. As detailed in the staff report, I move to adopt resolution approving the purchase of 5 new collection trucks for the solid waste division, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary associated documents in the total amount not to exceed $4,884,905, and amending the fiscal year 26-27 solid waste enterprise fund operating budget by $384,905.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations, Moving into item F2, Teresa Fairbanks, Interim Human Resources Director, will present the next item regarding an adjustment to the city manager's compensation.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The item before you tonight is twofold. First, it includes a review of the city manager's contract provision related to the compensation compaction clause in the current employment agreement. Second, it presents a proposed amendment to the city's pay schedule to formally incorporate both the resulting salary adjustment and the previously approved temporary salary increase that council directed staff on June 23rd, 26 to return for formal adoption. A little background on this item. The city's current city manager, G. Harold Duffy, was appointed on October 28th, 2025. His employment agreement includes a compaction clause requiring a 5% differential between his base salary and that of the highest paid employee who reports to him, in this case, the police chief. When Walter Ogrodnik was appointed to police chief on July 16, 2026, the compaction clause was triggered because the salary differential between the two positions narrowed down to 2%. Under the city manager's employment agreement, any adjustment needed to restore the required differential must be approved by the city council. Adoption of the proposed resolution would also amend the city's pay schedule. The proposed adjustment restores the full 5% differential by increasing the city's manager's salary by 3%, resulting in a proposed base salary of $313,650.40. The annual cost of the salary and related benefits is $11,400 for both fiscal year 26-27 and fiscal year 27-28. The second component of tonight's item is the recommendation for council to adopt the amended pay schedule. When council approved the temporary 8% salary increase for acting city manager Terrence Davis on June 23, 2026, staff was directed to return with a revised pay schedule for formal adoption. The amended pay schedule, if approved, would now incorporate both the city manager's 3% salary adjustment effective July 16, 2026, and the previously approved temporary salary increase for the acting city manager effective June 16, 2026. To ensure compliance with CCR Title II, Section 570.5, which requires CalPERS employers to maintain a publicly available council-approved pay schedule, staff recommends adoption of the amended schedule. Staff recommends that the City Council approve and adopt the recommended actions as detailed in the staff report and outlined in the resolution. For alternative options, staff does not recommend any alternatives to approving the city manager's compensation adjustment. Without approval, the city manager's salary would remain below the minimum differential required by the employment agreement. If the adjustment is not approved, council may still adopt the amended pay schedule to incorporate only the temporary 8% acting city manager rate to maintain compliance with CCR Title II, Section 570.5. Staff is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Any questions? Okay, moving into public comment.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please use your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. We'll take public comments from those participating in the chambers first, then from those participating via Zoom. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I do have, if I'm reading it correctly, Melissa, is your request to speak on this, please?
Good evening, mayors, council members, and staff. I've read the staff report, I did some additional research, and I still have so many questions. I understand that the employment agreement requires a 5% differential, and Chief Ogrodnik's salary pushed the city manager's pay below that threshold, and so technically, the city owes Mr. Duffy a raise. I might be bad at math, but I get it. That being said, I have a problem with the premise that the city's contractual obligations only flow in one direction. I'm sure Mr. Duffy's employment agreement also obligated him to fulfill his role with integrity and to treat all employees, regardless of gender, with fairness and respect. He is currently on paid administrative leave because there are serious allegations that he failed to meet those obligations. So I think it's fair to ask, why are we honoring the contract that benefits him while his performance under that same contract is under what I assume is an active investigation? If it's at all possible, I would like to urge City Council to not approve this raise tonight, adopt the pay schedule update for our acting city manager, Mr. Davis, because he deserves to be paid for the additional work he is doing, but hold off on anything related to Mr. Duffy's salary until the investigation is finished and we know whether he's coming back at all. If he's cleared, the adjustment can be made retroactively, and if he's not, we've saved ourselves money and a lot of justified public frustration. Thank you.
I have no additional speaker cards or hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you, Amanda. Any discussion? All right, barring that, a motion?
As detailed in the staff report, I move to adopt a resolution approving an adjustment of the city manager's annual base salary from $304,515 to $313,650.40 effective July 16, 2026, adopting the amended fiscal year 2026-2027 pay schedule, authorizing the Human Resources Director to make non-substantive ministerial revisions to the 2026-2027 pay schedule and amending the fiscal year 2026-2027 general fund operating budget by $11,400 and amending the fiscal year 2027-28 general fund operating budget by $11,400. I have a question. Is Teresa acting, or are you the director now? Because should it say interim Human Resources Director?
It's the person holding that title at the current moment, so she's acting. It would reflect her current capacity.
Thank you for clarifying. Then that's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the item moves. Thank you, Teresa. We're going to turn to you again. Teresa Fairbanks, Interim Human Resources Director, will present the next item regarding amendment to the compensation summary for the City of Brentwood unrepresented executive and senior management employees.
All right, thank you. The next item for your consideration is the amending of the longevity incentive plan section of the compensation summary to add a longevity incentive for the police chief classification. Longevity incentive pay is currently provided to eligible sworn employees through the rank of police captain. However, in the existing compensation summary, the city does not provide longevity incentive pay for the police chief classification. The incentive, if established and approved, would promote retention, support career pathways, and encourage our experienced and career Brentwood sworn personnel to continue to advance through the ranks. The proposed amendment provides a 2% longevity incentive of base salary upon completion of 25 years of continuous service as a sworn employee with the City of Brentwood. By establishing this incentive, sworn employees would not experience a reduction in total compensation upon promotion due to the loss of longevity incentive pay. For its fiscal impact, the annual general fund costs, including associated benefits, would be approximately $8,000. There is no budget amendment required for fiscal year 26-27 due to personnel savings. And if a budget amendment is required for fiscal year 27-28, an amendment to the general fund will be proposed in the midterm operating budget process. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the proposed amendment to the longevity incentive plan section of the compensation summary effective July 1st, 2026. City Council could decline to approve the proposed amendment, in which case the existing longevity incentive provisions would remain unchanged. And with that, staff is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Any questions? All right, moving into public comment.
Actually,
Oh,
just
go ahead.
real quickly, just so it's 100% clear, the incentive for longevity pay for the chief would not take into account the impaction fee of the city manager later on, where he would also get a raise to stay above. It's not included in that, right?
Correct. To answer your question, the longevity will be calculated on the chief's base salary, but as it relates to the city manager, that only looks at base salary. It does not look at any additional incentives.
Okay, thank you.
Moving into public comment, please.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or after the timer has expired. I have no speaker cards in person, and I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. Closing public comments and moving into council discussion or a motion.
As detailed in the staff report, I move to adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the longevity incentive plan section of the compensation summary for the city of Brentwood's unrepresented executive and senior management employees to provide the police chief with longevity incentive pay equal to 2% of base salary upon completion of 25 years of continuous service as a sworn employee of the city of Brentwood, effective July 1st, 2026.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes. Thank you. Item F4, we're back to Teresa. Teresa Fairbanks, Interim Human Resources Director, will present the next item regarding establishing a deputy city manager classification.
All right, thank you. This is, hopefully, this is my last item. So the next item for your consideration is a resolution to establish a new classification, deputy city manager. This is a joint presentation between Human Resources and the city manager's office. I'll begin with a brief background and then turn it over to Acting City Manager Terrence Davis, and I will return afterward to conclude the item. A little background on this. City operations continue to evolve, and with the growing need for strategic planning and organizational coordination, the city is experiencing increased demand for executive-level leadership to advance major initiatives. Following the departure of the Economic Development Manager in May, the City Manager's Office evaluated both immediate and long-term organizational needs. Through that review, staff identified the opportunity to create a position that provides citywide leadership and oversight of strategic initiatives. With support from Human Resources, which conducted a comprehensive review of the duties and responsibilities required, staff developed the proposed Deputy City Manager classification. Based on the scope of work and level of responsibility, this classification aligns with the unrepresented executive and senior management employees group, specifically within the senior management category. For additional information about the role and its impact on the organization, I'll now turn it over to Terrence.
Thank you, Teresa. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Community. Terrence Davis, Acting City Manager. So just to talk a little bit more about the why in terms of why we came forward with this recommendation. And so certainly with the departure of the previous economic development manager and in evaluating, the top 100 goals that have been adopted or strategic initiatives across the multitude of areas in the city, we really wanted to take a look at what position could best kind of effectuate the implementation of those strategies, but also really as we talk about economic development and these large projects, the Innovation Center, as we talk about our legislative affairs, et cetera, we really thought that elevating a position to the deputy city manager would be impactful in terms of adding the appropriate level of staffing to help get those goals accomplished. I'll also say, certainly over time, the city manager's office, like other departments, have continued to kind of morph as the priorities have changed, as the complexity of the work has changed. And, our office has continued to manage economic development efforts along with all of the coordination between departments. We'll continue to do that at all levels, myself included, as an assistant city manager, acting city manager, what have you. I think what's different is that we've made some shifts to really make sure, because of those top 100 goals, to make sure that the assistant city manager role was providing more support for internal services, meaning for parks and recreation, human resources, et cetera. And so, that was just a shift in terms of how resources were assigned. And so, again, because of that shift, we saw an opportunity for this position to fill a different role. The last thing I'll say is and probably best said as an example, we all know that, Rayleigh's unfortunately is leaving town. And I think the old model of economic development for us would be to work through, I'll call it a broker or the centers, to be able to attract individual businesses to the community. Those individual businesses that we know and we've talked about, that we have the ability to be very selective about, to make sure that they fit our needs. It matters who's at the table negotiating those deals. And so that deputy city manager title, fortunate or not, does help to make sure that the appropriate position is seen at the table to help negotiate those deals and to bring those resources necessary to the table to be able to facilitate bringing the type of economic development and retail, et cetera, that we're interested in. I said finally, but there's actually one last. This position aligns with our assistant director position, or assistant, deputy director, I guess you would call it. And so by creating a very catch-all position that in the future could be repurposed, it also creates some career progression opportunities where folks who are moving from one particular part of the organization can get experience and kind of a career ladder towards becoming more of a generalist. So those are some of the benefits that we thought were worth bringing forward this recommendation, and the reason that we thought this position was important.
Thank you, Teresa and Terrence. Do we have questions?
I do.
Okay.
Just question, could you give us and the public kind of an overview? I know we talked about it in our agenda review of what your vision is for the economic development department. So you have a deputy city manager. Right now we have an analyst position. What is that department basically going to look at? And is this deputy city manager going to oversee anyone in that department? Well, I'm not.
Hitting the ground and doing a lot of the operational and administrative tasks associated. This position would manage the broad strategy, would be working across departments, would be working with our various partners, would be working with our elected officials, et cetera, to identify resources. So much more strategic. And then, of course, also working through Carrie and I and others to bring those forward to the city council at a strategic level. It is already a very small kind of section, and so this adds a different position, but it still keeps the group fairly small in terms of overall number of FTE.
Is there a vision or succession planning of maybe bringing back the manager or other employees in the economic development department, or are we just going to keep it the way it is?
So what I would say is we really wanted to be as conservative as possible and keep this as neutral of a change as possible by minimizing what the budget impact would be. I think in a perfect scenario in the future, as we talk about our priorities and the areas that we want to focus on, there could be a scenario in the distant future where there's additional staffing that's either assigned to the office, repurposed to work on projects, et cetera. So like the Innovation Center is a really good example that I would imagine over time as that project continues to get legs and move forward, that we may have, if not new FTE, we may have some reassignments or some other folks who get assigned to that project. And in that case, this position could provide some oversight and leadership for them. But right now, in the immediate, there's no immediate plans to add new positions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. I had a question as well. So for clarification and looking at the job description, it's distinguished from the assistant city manager by the assignment of programmatic responsibilities with a focus on intergovernmental relationships, policy analysis, and public communications. I didn't see a huge economic development focus in this position, but if I'm understanding correctly, we went from a 3-person economic development team to 1 person.
That's correct. At present, I'll say 1.5 if I count myself and whatever I can offer Amy. So absolutely, and we all work on economic development across the team. The reason that the classification is written the way it is, and Teresa can jump in on this as well if necessary, but the goal of this was to have a very broad classification, and then as we did recruitment, you would recruit for the particular skill set that you were after. So it's very common to have a deputy position where you would recruit for, economic development, or if you had some other large initiative and parts of the East Bay, that might be things around like unhoused programs as an example. So you would recruit for the particular skill set and use that classification, which is very broad. And then actually when you do your working recruitment, you would go find the skill sets and those folks would meet the minimum qualifications and you would go target what you were after. If we wanted to do something around public safety, et cetera, you could use this classification. It's very flexible. And that was one of the things that we mentioned in the staff report. So that is by design that we kept it very flexible so that we could do whatever it needed to do. In this instance right now, obviously, we're recommending it would focus on strategic initiatives and economic development related activity because that's the council's objectives. If those change in the future, you could change that position's focus.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? Okay, moving into public comments, please.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. The microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or after the timer has expired. I don't have any speaker cards in person on this. Mr. Dorman, please.
I'm sorry, Amanda. Okay. We need to abandon our old ways of economic development, only working through center developers instead of directly with retail. The old way of economic development was done, and it needs to be changed. That goes to the heart of the position, the title, and status to make a deal. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of our city manager. I called him when I saw this. Why do we need a deputy city manager? Because in the report, it says economic development is already being done. So I'm thinking that's a duplication. And why do we need one? He explained it to me. That, and as Terrence had said, that it's broad so you can reach out because the umbrella of economic development could be a little bit widened. Also, it's a hierarchy thing. Economic development manager, directors, assistant city manager. By bringing in, and it honestly, the title should have been deputy city manager, comma, economic development. That would have clarified it. It's a hierarchical thing. So now, not necessarily accountable, these guys are accountable, they're still accountable to the assistant city manager. But it allows them, or this position allows them to have at least a dotted line as opposed to, who are you? It also takes some of the responsibility off of our acting or assistant city manager's plate. As I said, my first thought was, oh, what the? But when he explained it to me, and I don't think it was explained thoroughly, and that's why I want to take the last 34 seconds. It is to attract a higher quality, better caliber of folk, as well as an actual growth potential. So it's not a matter of adding headcount, subtracting headcount. It's just giving a title and maybe a little bit of a salary to give more responsibility. So I would just suggest changing it to whatever the title is, slash.
I have no additional requests to speak or hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. Moving into discussion.
I guess one of my questions is, I'm a real big stickler on wanting headcount to come in during the budget process. Why was this not in our budget?
So, Councilmember, this was, frankly, when we have transitions in staffing, vacancies, there's an opportunity for us to sit down with HR and evaluate if needs have changed, if there's opportunities to do something different. During the budget process, we did not have that opportunity just because of the timing. And so this came forward. I'll also back up and say that the process of the creation of the classification does take some time. So HR does have to go out and do some analysis to create this classification. So it was just simply a timing issue. Ideally, if we have vacancies or if we have positions that we'd like to change we would introduce those in the budget process. This is just merely because of opportunity.
Yeah, because I went and reread everything and nowhere was there even a thought about adding anything to the city manager's office. So then you weren't in that seat at that point, but that kind of, I'm not a big fan of that. And the other thing is, I went and looked at the org chart of the city manager's office, and I guess my question is, we're still going to have, your goal is to still have 2 people in that department, not to have, you're not going to add anything below that. And I think Faye was kind of asking that question, but I want to know that there's no, and she kind of said the same thing. I don't like a lot of hierarchy. I just don't. And I feel like we're adding a level that I'm not feeling comfortable with right now. And also just knowing that we're kind of in a little bit of flux. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. I would almost feel comfortable waiting until we kind of stabilize some things. I understand why you want it. The other thing is we have that headcount for public information officer under the same city manager budget. And I know we're using some of those, aren't we using some of those dollars for other stuff, right now? All of it? So what are we using all of that for if it's not a headcount?
So currently good evening. Currently the funding for the public information officer is being allocated towards our external consulting services with Weblative, yes.
Yeah. Are they taking all of it?
They are taking all of it. Yeah, if not all, it's virtually all of it.
That's a lot, but okay. So I guess just for me right now, I would like, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I would just like to hold off until we are a little bit more stable when it comes to upper management. And the other thing is I was reading the job description and it said business or public, I can't remember what the other degree was. If we're going to do this and if it's for economic development, I really want someone on the business side. I don't, someone that really knows how to deal with retail a lot, that knows how to deal with different, business centers and things like that, whether it be hard goods, soft goods, sports, whatever it is, someone that's kind of versed in all of that. Because there was someone that was interested in coming and looking at doing like not like a big sports league thing, but like a minor one that they would then build out, but it just never came to fruition. I don't feel like we had the skill set. So that's it right now. I understand what you're saying, but I just would rather just hold off. That's me.
So it sounds like you think it may be duplicative of the assistant city manager role. Is that what I hear you saying a little bit of?
Yeah, so in the old world, this assistant city manager role did all the econ dev. And I think right now we were switching it where the city manager was going to do all econ dev. So that means that's kind of 3 people, right? Still 3 people. So I don't know.
Yeah. So my question is, and thank you for your report. I do have a question because I looked at the org chart and it has the economic development manager reporting to the city manager, but that was not the case. The economic development manager was reporting before to Darren. Is that a newer chart that we've amended to report directly? It's not on the screen, but it was on the screen just a few seconds ago. If we could. Oh, was that yours, Jovita? But I think that's the actual city one, right?
Yeah, this is what we got in the last budget cycle.
Yeah, can you put it back up?
Vice Mayor, I believe our city manager changed that when he came on because he had that expertise.
Thank you. And who would 2 questions, you may have said this and I didn't hear it, but who would they report to? And also, second question, hopefully it doesn't escape me, is if we decide to hold off the way that Councilmember Mendoza is in waiting to adjust, would we still proceed with hiring an economic development manager so that all the weight is not just on Amy Tilley?
So the first question is, who would the deputy city manager position report to? That is intended to be the city manager. The way that we've kind of put this forward, it could be the city manager's designee, which would be the assistant city manager, but we've contemplated this as it would report to the city manager. And then the second question is, would we hire someone for the economic development position? Likely. So certainly we've waited to allow HR the time to do this analysis and do this work. As you all know, really, we have significant priorities in the economic development arena, and I would not want to continue to dilly-dally. I'd want to move forward to make sure we had the appropriate staffing so that we could implement, again, the council's objectives. And so I think in order to do that, certainly go to Terrence and Amy, but I think we do need that additional expertise and that additional staffing capacity to really be able to implement what I know that the council is interested in.
Thank you. I think you just referred to yourself in third person. Did you say? But
go me.
So no, the other thing is, how would that impact us if we did wait and came back and implemented this role, but we hired someone as the manager? What would be the effect? Maybe that may be a Teresa question. Because the Councilmember Mendoza and Councilmember Maloney said, oh, are we going to try to hire someone? Will we ever fill the economic development manager role if we hired someone and then later on we did do a deputy role? What would happen to that? Would it just be eliminated or?
So good question. So if the council desires to go and basically decline at this time the creation of the classification and then recruit for the economic development manager position, we could do that. I think it would be based on if there is a need down the road to create the classification, we would have to look at FTE and getting that budget approved. I don't know if the desire is to try to elevate the current economic development manager position. You could also look at that. So we would call that a reclassification, where we would elevate the position and then determine if that incumbent meets the minimum qualifications of that classification. So I think it's going to depend on if the position evolves to that need, and then if we do what's called a reallocation, reclassification.
So I have concerns about this as well. It feels like a major restructure, adding another person at that level. And as it's been said, we are in a position right now of limbo. We aren't sure, and I'm trying to be delicate about how I say this, we aren't sure where we're going to be in a few months. And we have suggested putting off decisions in the past if it meant that a new person in a role, or potentially a person returning to a role, if that happens, were to want to make a decision based on their own vision, based on what they want their team to feel like and operate like. With that in mind, I do feel like we should push this out. Go ahead.
So I think I understand that we're looking at whether we're going to bring in a deputy city manager to assist with the economic development. And that's always been a goal of this council, was to promote the economic development with the Innovation Center, moving the city of Brentwood forward. We're losing some of our larger retailers out of the city, and this would give the opportunity for somebody with the role of a deputy city manager position to go to organizations, companies, and promote the growth of the city of Brentwood, which I've always thought that was our goal for the city of Brentwood, was to grow the economic part of the city so that our citizens aren't necessarily commuting all the way to Concord and everywhere else to go to work. I understand holding off, and that the manager position, we didn't get a whole lot of bang out of our buck with the last manager, and bringing in a role that can bring in these larger companies to fill those open spaces that we have, get our citizens working within the city of Brentwood, would be a great position. Also, during my agenda review, we talked about, and you talked a very little bit about it tonight, was that once the Innovation Center and several other businesses and areas are already built out, pivoting that role to a different position, still as I forgot the role, I forgot the title, deputy city manager could take over those roles and be able to do the same thing. I think it's probably worthwhile moving forward now if the goal of the council is to fill up the Innovation Center, bring in those hotels, bring in the businesses that we're talking about bringing into Rayleigh's leaving, and other businesses here within the community that aren't staying here. I think that's our goal. That if that's our goal, then this is a way to make that goal happen.
Councilmember Maloney.
So I think I'm a little bit unclear. Are we getting rid of the manager's position completely and just replacing it with the deputy city manager and maybe getting a second analyst?
So the goal here is to create a new classification first. The deputy city manager classification does not exist in our classification schedule. So that's the work that we've done to present this draft classification. We would fund this position using the savings from or the salary from the economic development manager. So we would not fill that position. We would not eliminate that classification. So in the future, if that classification needed to be brought back, we have some flexibility. So this is funded by the savings from the economic development manager position. Right. So thank you. And so there is a delta. There is a delta of about $27,000 difference between the two classifications. So that's the salary difference that we would use salary savings, additional salary savings to fund that difference. So we've identified $35,000 of savings that we can use across 2 fiscal years to pay for the position in this budget cycle. So there is no plan to immediately add another administrative analyst or senior management analyst position today. We do not have the funding. We haven't identified those resources. So I guess simply put, it would be this position in lieu of the economic development manager. We'd still have a senior management analyst. Those would be the 2 primary positions. And of course, the assistant city manager and city manager are gonna always continue to support economic development to varying degrees. But does that answer your question?
It does. So basically, if we do add on the manager position afterwards, it would have to go through the whole classification FTE process through the council or through budget and everything, correct?
The deputy city manager?
No, let's say we have a deputy city manager and then the city manager would want to add a manager, then we would have to go through a whole new process, correct?
We would only have to go through the process of funding the position. The classification would exist. But
Okay.
yes, you would have to go through that process. And the last thing I want to, and I certainly understand the feedback and the desire of the council to maybe pause and wait until the organization kind of settles. All I'll say is I'm clear about economic development and the goals that we want to accomplish. It takes 6 to 7 months to stand up a new position. By the time we do the recruitment, we vet the candidates and they go through our background process. And so when earlier asked about whether I would, pause and just kind of wait, if you don't take action tonight to approve this position, my default strategy would still be to move forward with the other funded position and start a recruitment, understanding that it's about a 6-month process to even get someone.
Okay, so I have another question. So for the most part, in the city of Brentwood, we really don't have a lot of empty spaces. As soon as they become available, they're full. I mean, my understanding is there's already people looking at that spot. So the focus of this job would be Innovation Center for the most part?
Primarily.
Okay. Do you think this is most beneficial or because it sounds like, okay, well, they're going to have a job for a while and when this is done, they're going to move on, right, to like somewhere else in the organization. Would it not be better for from a financial lens to do a consultant to come in that we don't have a pension obligation for, that we don't have benefits for, to come in, like go crazy on Innovation Center, and then they move on overall and keep our economic development manager and our senior management analyst?
The use of consultants is certainly a viable strategy. I will say we have consultants who are working in various capacities supporting the Innovation Center and other economic development projects. So we're utilizing them today. We could certainly leverage those consultants further. What I'll say, though, is it's very difficult for a consultant to represent the city in the same capacity as a staff person. When we're talking about dealing with these large developers, it's very difficult for a consultant to work with, our public works and engineering and other staff when we talk about infrastructure, to work with our transit operators, so on and so forth. It's not impossible, but it's difficult and it doesn't have the same impact. And then finally, well, 2 things. It's also very difficult for a consultant to go represent us completely with our legislative representatives when we talk about, advocating for our project. They certainly can tee us up, but we need to hit the ball.
Which I would expect our city manager to be there anyway. If you're dealing with legislative, it's not just even the deputy. I would expect our city manager to be alongside that. So I guess I wouldn't have a problem with this, with a consultant that's in-house. I'm not talking about someone that you have outside, someone that's in-house. Because then, hearing you say, they would move on to something else, I just think it might be better to just have someone that's temporary consultant because that the savings on the pension obligation and the benefits is so much. So that's the only thing, now that we're talking through it, you know.
Fair. The last thing I was going to say, Councilmember, all good points, is that often a consultant, because of their billable rate to do this type of work, is not going to be more cost effective. So they're often going to be very costly in terms of their hourly rate. So we can certainly take a look at that, and it is something that we're not opposed to that. We utilize them and we continue to for economic development activities, but when you kind of pencil out everything, often they're not more cost effective.
Thank you. So I think I hear the wait, but I guess my hesitation on the wait and not moving forward today is I actually would prefer to proceed forward after hearing all the dialogue, only because what I'm hearing is it's only $27,000 difference and it's a change of title, but it's still reporting to the same city manager, how we have in our current structure, still same responsibilities, but the requirements of the quality of candidate would be a little bit more, we're asking for more. And also the title seems more attractive when we're soliciting out in the community. So that is kind of where I'm at on this. But I had one am I correct about that's the only difference is the $27,000? Because it seems like to me that a contract. I mean, the idea is not a consultant's not bad, but I think a consultant will cost more than $27,000.
The difference between the two positions, the economic development manager in this classification is roughly $27,000 a year.
Okay. And thank you. And then the other thing is I had the experience to be in with one of our elected officials when it was on economic development. And I would be concerned to have a consultant present. I would be concerned about conflicts of interest with the consultant and their firm. If their firm is asking for something else from same said elected official, I mean, I appreciate in-house, but an in-house person still comes from a consulting firm. And if their firm has someone else asking for a different thing, I would be a little concerned about the conflict of interest if they have competing ask in front of said elected officials. I think we don't leverage our relationships more to try to figure out what opportunities they have and why they aren't kicking it to the cities that they represent. I think they need to do more inside of the city. So I have no qualms about moving forward with the motion, with the exception of, I think Councilmember Mendoza made a good point that it would be nice to have someone in economic development with a background who understands retail, and so that it's not duplicative of the same qualifications and education that we look for in our assistant city manager and our city manager. I think we need a both and. So it'd be nice if we can modify the requirements to have a little bit more retail experience, because I think it'll go a long way. I mean, look at Center Cal, look at all the things that happen. I think it'd be nice to have someone who knows how to speak that language that's going to step into that role.
And before we make a motion, I'm going to make one more comment. I definitely want to reiterate that absolutely our focus has been on economic development, job creation, everything else. It's something that we've talked about over and over again, and it's for sure a focus area. I still am a bit hung up on making such a major structural move during this time of transition and limbo. But I do feel like, and I was going to suggest it too, actually, the idea of a temporary consultant, internal, external, whatever fits right, while we make that transition, at least to keep things moving. And in part too, because our new analyst is already doing a bang-up job, jumped in without any specific support in that department. There was no manager, there was no department, frankly. So she came into this not having internal support. And I feel like if there was a consultant that were to come in and work on some of these large-scale projects and initiatives, that there could also be some kind of alignment and, I don't want to say mentorship because I think she's doing a great job. I will say that I think that she was kind of not set up for success without having that structure around her. And this could also be a time to build that while we're in limbo.
Madam Mayor, are you saying,
Oh, no, it's okay, go ahead.
You had your light on, go ahead.
No, the only thing is also I think the motion needs to be clear that we are removing from the budget, the economic development manager that's being removed for this fiscal year, and the other one was being added, because wouldn't want to confuse it and keep it there, and then it gets filled when we don't know, or like it just happens. That would be the other thing.
And after I heard all the answers to your questions, for me, it was really important for me to differentiate between the manager, just as everybody here has been saying, and the deputy city manager position. So I'm okay with that as long as we're not doing a second position or a third position.
That's correct.
And I want to clarify, Madam Mayor, were you saying in addition, if we do change the role to deputy, that we also have a consultant in the transition? I just want to make sure you.
Right, no, thank you for asking. I'm not in support of the deputy position at this time based on the kind of transition point that we're in. My thought is that while we're kind of going through this process, that we do work with a consultant who would both start really digging in on some strategic planning when it comes to economic development, but could also offer more structure for the department so that our current analyst, who is so new, while she's doing a great job, has a little bit more support in that area.
Thank you for clarifying. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead and make a motion, yes.
Thank you. As detailed in the staff report, I move to adopt a resolution establishing the deputy city manager classification, approving the job description with the addition of the qualifications to include retail experience, or however we want to structure that. And is that correct, Jovita? Some retail experience? Yeah, and salary range of $191,982 to $233,355.48 annually, and amend the 2026-2027 general fund operating budget in the amount of $27,285 and the 2027-2028 general fund operating budget in the amount of $28,102, and to remove the removal of the economic manager position from the operating budget moving forward.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No. The item moves forward. Moving into item F5, Alan Bacalar, Director of Engineering, will present the next item regarding the encroachment permit process.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. Tonight, I will provide an overview of the city's encroachment permit process, explain the role of the city engineer in administrating that process, and then discuss the potential for establishing a council-initiated call for review process. The primary purpose of this presentation is to clarify what an encroachment permit does, what it does not do, and where council's role fits in the existing process as well. At the end of the presentation, staff is seeking direction on whether council would like us to proceed with developing a municipal code amendment to establish a council-initiated call for review process. The city's encroachment permit process is primarily governed by Chapter 12.08 of the Brentwood Municipal Code. In simple terms, an encroachment permit is the city's mechanism for regulating work or activities that occur within the public right-of-way. Because these areas are used by the public, the city has an interest in making sure that work occurring there is performed safely, does not unnecessarily interfere with public access, and does not damage city infrastructure. One of the most important concepts for understanding this discussion is the distinction between public right-of-way and private property. So in this graphic, you'll see as I click over, it'll shade out what I call the private property. And that yellow line sort of illustrates what the public right-of-way is. As you can see, the public right-of-way includes not only the streets, sidewalks, but also it covers underground facilities as well. As you can see, there's sewer systems, storm sewer systems, gas lines, and water mains, for example. And not only below, but we also have above. We have the traffic signal components, overhead utilities as well. That's part of the encroachment and public right-of-way. There are also circumstances where the normal permit process doesn't necessarily apply in the same way. For example, emergent situations can require immediate action to protect life, property, utilities, and public infrastructure. The important point is that the encroachment permit process is intended to regulate ordinary activities in the public right-of-way while allowing the city or responsible utility company to respond appropriately when circumstances require immediate action. For instance, as these exemptions state, city officers will have to, may be eligible to encroach the street. So in this case, think of a police officer holding traffic temporarily because of an accident. Or emergency work if something were to happen with a gas main break. PG&E is able to respond quickly without having to go through an encroachment permit process. In the case of emergency work from a utility, they would do the work to, again, ensure the preservation of life or property, but they would still be required to come in after the fact to submit an encroachment permit, and we'll cover that there. Under Chapter 12.08 of the Municipal Code, the city engineer is responsible for administering the encroachment permit process. That includes reviewing applications, determining whether the proposed work complies with applicable requirements, establishing appropriate conditions, and issuing or denying permits. This is an administrative function. In this case, City Council establishes the city policies and regulations through the Municipal Code and other legislative actions. The city engineer then applies those policies, requirements, and engineering standards towards individual permit applications. Another important point is that the city engineer isn't making these decisions simply based on personal preference or engineering judgment. Encroachment permits are subject to the hierarchy of applicable requirements depending on the work. That can include federal and state requirements, the California Vehicle Code, California Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or CAMUTCD, applicable environmental and accessibility requirements, the Brentwood Municipal Code, city engineering standard plans and specifications, and also the Engineering Procedures Manual. The city engineer's role is to apply those requirements to the particular circumstances of the permit. Before an encroachment permit is issued, the applicant has to provide information that allows the city to evaluate the proposed work. Depending on the project or work, that can include a description and location, the duration, anticipated, construction plans, traffic control plans, insurance, bonds or surety, and applicable fees. The purpose of these requirements is to give the city enough information to understand how the proposed work will proceed and affect the public right-of-way and determine what conditions may be necessary. There are more than 200 encroachment permits issued by the city each year, covering a wide range of activities. Many are relatively routine, for example, utility work, sidewalk or pavement improvements, or temporary lane shifts. Others can have much more substantial impacts on the transportation system, such as special events. This volume is one of the reasons why staff believes that the normal process should remain administrative. If every permit were subject to council consideration, it would significantly change the way the city administers this program. Here are some examples of street encroachments. So this one before you is from a private development project by Shea Homes and in front of you here is a picture of Adams Lane. There could be, in this case, there's a lot of, as you guys know, there's a lot of extensive construction associated with development. But the encroachment permit in this case is really addressing the portion that affects the public right-of-way. Traffic control is one of the most visible aspects of an encroachment permit. When a contractor needs to reduce lanes, close a lane, close a sidewalk, or detour traffic to accommodate the work they need to do, the city makes sure that the appropriate traffic control plan is provided and that reasonable access remains available. This traffic control plan, as an example, shows a lane reduction and illustrates why encroachment permits require technical review. The city has to consider traffic volumes, roadway characteristics, pedestrian access, emergency access, work duration, and the appropriate traffic control devices. These are technical decisions that are generally addressed through established standards and engineering practice. A detour, in this case, can involve an even greater level of coordination. In this case, the city has to consider where traffic is being redirected, how that affects adjacent streets and neighborhoods, pedestrian and bicycle access, emergency response, transit, or commercial access. Again, the purpose of the administrative process is to apply the this applicable state and establish city standards consistently to all of these circumstances. This slide really gets into the heart of what an encroachment permit is and what it isn't. On the left are things that are within the scope of the encroachment permit. These include streets, sidewalks, curb and gutter, driveway aprons, utility trenches, and temporary traffic control. On the right are things that are outside the scope, things such as building construction, land use entitlements, private site grading, private landscaping, architectural design, and construction methods on private property. So for example, if a development project is controversial because of its building design, density, landscaping, or other aspects, those are not matters subject and decided through an encroachment permit. The encroachment permit addresses the use of public right-of-way, not particularly the merits of the private project. This brings us to the question of why the process is administrative. As I noted earlier, the city issues more than 200 encroachment permits annually. Most of these permits involve applying existing standards to fairly routine situations. Having an administrative process allows the city to process these permits efficiently, apply standards consistently, and provide applicants with applicable requirements. It also allows technical engineering decisions to remain with the city's professional staff. The fundamental principle is council establishes policy and staff applies that policy. It means that individual permit applications are generally administered by staff, by the staff member who has been delegated that responsibility, in this case, the city engineer. And as I noted on this slide, it reduces inconsistent decision-making, promotes equitable treatment, preserves technical engineering judgment. The current appeal process is provided under section 12.08.320 of the Brentwood Municipal Code. An applicant may appeal a permit denial, the terms of a permit or permit conditions within 10 days of that permit issuance or denial. The appeal would then be brought to City Council, where City Council can deny the appeal, grant the appeal, or grant it subject to conditions, and the City Council's decision is final. So in this case, City Council currently has a role in reviewing encroachment permit decisions when it is appealed by the applicant. The important distinction is that the existing appeal process is applicant initiated. There is currently no provision allowing a council member or the City Council to initiate review of an encroachment permit on its own. The question then is whether council wants an additional mechanism that would allow council to initiate review of certain encroachment permits. If council wants that authority, it would require an amendment to chapter 12.08 of the Brentwood Municipal Code. If directed, staff's recommendation would be that any such process be narrowly focused on the encroachment permit itself. Council review could address questions such as, does the proposed work comply with the municipal code and applicable engineering standards? Another question is, are the permit conditions sufficient to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the city and city infrastructure? Is the proposed traffic control or pedestrian emergency access appropriate? And would the proposed work have a material impact on city infrastructure or transportation operations? Staff recommends that any call for review process should not allow the council to reconsider underlying private development through the encroachment permit. If council is interested in creating this process, staff would recommend that it be limited to exceptional circumstances rather than making every permit eligible for council review. There are four potential categories that staff is recommending. First, significant or, if a permit allows for significant or extended impacts to major streets, such as arterials or collectors. Second would be long-term closures or obstructions of streets or sidewalks that materially affect access. A third is significant impacts to public access, city infrastructure, or transportation operations. And fourth, in situations involving a novel interpretation of municipal code governing the public right-of-way. The purpose of these criteria would be to make the process objective and predictable to the extent practicable. If council directs staff to move forward, there are several procedural issues that would need to be addressed by the municipal code amendment. First, we would need objective eligibility criteria. We would need to establish who can initiate a review and how that request is made. We would need to set filing deadlines. We would need to determine what happens to a permit while a call for review is pending. We would need also clarity on hearing procedures. And we would need to define the scope and standard of council's review and the effect of council's direction or decision. In other words, today's direction would not establish the actual process. It would direct staff to develop the process for council's future consideration. In conclusion, staff recommends maintaining the city's current administrative encroachment permit process and not establish a council-initiated call for review at this time. The current process is consistent with the prevailing administrative permitting model used by many of the other Bay Area jurisdictions, in which encroachment permits are reviewed and administered by the engineering or public works staff under established codes and standards, and yet still has an appeal process available to the applicant when appropriate. For example, Walnut Creek and Pleasanton use this general administrative model with city staff responsible for encroachment permit decisions and the city council serving as an appellate role. The current policy promotes consistent application of adopted requirements, predictable permit processing, and technical-based decision-making while retaining council's existing authority to consider applicant appeals. That concludes my long presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions at this point?
I have a bunch of questions. The first question I have is, well, it's actually because Councilmember Mendoza brought this, and I wanted to ask her, what specific situations prompted this item that demonstrated that there's a problem in the current process?
Well, the latest was, I was going to bring them up during our conversation, is the fire water or the fire department equipment by Sip and Scoop is one, where they covered, they put it in a location where we're no longer going to have the mural, the chalk mural that happens, because they put it in front of that. The second one is the flock cameras. I wish we would have known about those two things, because we could have appealed it and maybe moved it or decided not to do it, Okay. So those are just two examples.
Okay, thank you. And then the, because I wanted to kind of find out like the context of this. So the next question, are encroachment permits, are they ministerial or are they exempt from CEQA? And if so, why?
A lot of the encroachment permits are really repair work or replacement. I believe most of them I've seen, they don't go through, they're exempt from CEQA. But we would go through that determination with each application if it turns out it's something really new. A lot of it, if it's in particular for development projects, for example, where they're building new infrastructure, that's already part of that CEQA review. So as part of the process, we make sure it is covered.
Okay. And is an encroachment permit like a license, and is it revocable?
The municipal code adds a section where the city engineer can revoke a permit if there is any obvious or some failure on the applicant's end to maintain a safe operation during construction.
Okay. My next question is, would the call for review process increase the number of environmental reviews each year?
I don't think it would.
Okay. If we did go with the change as proposed, what would that cost the city in time and money?
It would definitely take a considerable amount of staff time. I don't think it would take any consultant time to review it, but we would come back and put together a framework that city council could consider as part of the amendment process. If I could speak to the flock camera situation. So that one was issued mistakenly. So we are working on a process of investigating that encroachment permit and possibly revoking it or removing it, because it was issued under the premise of, or misunderstanding that it was part of the city's agreement, with when the city does have an agreement with Flock for some cameras, staff mistakenly thought that was part of it as well. So we are relooking at that particular encroachment permit and in conversations with Flock on removing it.
And the next one is, if in the call for review process after a permit is issued, work commences, an applicant relies on what they believe to be a cleared permit that allows them to continue their work, and then it's called for review. Is there a potential estoppel issue? That might be a legal question.
So, as you might expect, it's going to be a situation where it's based on the facts and what your cause for reliance is. Are there, economic damages associated with it? It's an entire analysis based on the actual facts of the incident that would have to take place. But those are certainly all factors that we're going to have to look at in this particular situation. So all of those things are relevant to figuring out, does a revocation actually take place or not?
And then my last question is, we talked about at last council that another city does it, so it should be okay. Is this, what's the typical process that you all have seen that cities do?
Based on research and my experience as well with other jurisdictions, other cities do not have a call for review process to be initiated by city council. They do have similar to us, the ability for the applicant to appeal if they're not satisfied with the decision on their permit. But there is no council call for review process that I could find elsewhere in the Bay Area.
I have a question. I spoke to the acting city manager about the sip and scoop change of piping that happened during the repair of the alley. Did that require an encroachment permit, or was it just moved as part of the roadway or the alley repair?
It's a great question. I'm going to defer that to our public works director. You have that information?
Sure, thank you. So that device was relocated because of the joint trench that's in that alleyway. And Alan can help me if I mess this up, but we have to separate the water and sewer lines from the other utilities, electrical and gas and different things that are underground. And because of the physical limitations of the alley, the water line had to be moved on that further side. It was just coincident that it was put in this particular spot that it's at, but there's not really another good spot for it along that wall. I will tell you, we are looking at a way to put up a false or a fake brick front to hide that. And then we're going to try to move some of the other vegetation and signs that are in the way. So we're going to try to recreate that spot for people to have the photos. But it was put there really because it was the only other good location for that backflow device.
Just to add, city projects there's no encroachment permit related to that. So the downtown alleyway project is a CI capital improvement project. So there is no encroachment permit associated with that work. It's all approved through a contract that the city council approved.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because there was talk about it was fire equipment and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure we were the ones that did that. Thank you.
Can I just try and clarify a little bit? You said there's no other cities that have, or in your research you didn't find any other cities that, why? Why would they not have that?
I think it's the sheer, particularly because it's the sheer volume of encroachment permits. Imagine a city like, I hate to point out, like San Jose or San Francisco, where they have a lot more infrastructure, a lot more utilities, a lot of activity. In Brentwood alone, we have 200 encroachment permits a year. And like I said, the vast majority of these permits are fairly straightforward. And that's why that's kind of worked for a lot of other cities that I'm aware of. Yeah.
I'm just going to clarify it a little clearer. They're straightforward for you with your education level and your knowledge of how the infrastructure of the city has to work. Less straightforward for somebody like me who's trying to figure out, why are we putting signs 300 feet down the road saying the road's closed ahead, et cetera.
That's correct. It lies with the technical expertise of the staff. Each individual city typically has a public works and engineering department, and that's where the expertise lies. They are familiar with the the designs, the engineering standards, the traffic control measures, that's kind of uniform throughout the state. And, keeping that with the city staff, that would be ideal.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions. We can move into public comment.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or after the timer has expired. I do have one comment card in person. Tracy?
I would just like to say that I would prefer that council has the option for, I guess what you say, call for review. I don't think we're a big enough city where it should be a problem. And I also feel that what I've experienced, that perhaps it's a good thing that the council has that ability. For example, I've had a couple instances with engineering and their permits. So anyway, long story short, the reason why I'm here right now is because I want to know who follows up with the permits, who is responsible for making sure that somebody who was issued a permit completed the job. Because on my particular street, right in front of my house, Comcast dug up and tore up the sidewalk. And I called, and also a neighbor 2 doors down. Well, I called about a month ago and they're like, well, Comcast has a different department and it takes a little longer. If nothing happens in a month, call again. So I call again, and apparently though I called Public Works, but the lady said she left a message with the engineering department, and I believe her because she called me back. And it's been 2 days, still haven't heard back from your department. There was also an issue, which I had a contractor that never applied for a permit, which was a problem, and I'm dealing with that. But it turns out that had the city done the inspection, that at that time, the permit department wouldn't have, at least from my understanding, wouldn't have paid attention or worried about a furnace that was no longer allowed to be sold in this area. It was against East Bay air quality control. Like, they have banned that particular furnace in this county. Well, anyway, so the guy who sold it to me and installed it and didn't get the permit, like I was following up. Anyway, from my dealing with the gentleman that worked there, he said, well, we don't really look for that. I know he said that. I don't care what he says. I know he said that. And that's a problem. So that's a permit issue, because if that kind of stuff is being installed in somebody's home, that's one thing that should be identifiable. And so anyway, I want somebody to follow up with Comcast. Oh, another thing.
I have no additional speakers in person, and I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you, Amanda. Alan, do you have any responses?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, for the first comment from Tracy regarding who inspects, that would be the engineering inspector. So with each encroachment permit, there is an inspector assigned to the work. So I'll follow up with our staff, Shirley, to see what's going on with Comcast. So whenever an encroachment permit's issued, inspectors out there to make sure the traffic control's in place, for instance, and that the construction is done in a safe and orderly manner. Once the construction is completed, the inspector would also follow suit to make sure that any restorations are done completely and correctly. If that's not the case, then they would continue to follow up with Comcast. And in this case, it's a utility company. I'm not sure a call for review would be ideal for this situation, because these utilities have franchise agreements with the city, and we hold them to the fire. We do meet with them quarterly at utility coordination meetings as well to go over these topics. So trust me that I'll follow up with staff on this Comcast issue. The other one about a contractor doing work without a proper permit, when that happens, please alert engineering or code enforcement staff or police staff as well. We'll definitely follow up and make sure that whatever we want to make sure that, especially making sure our public infrastructure and city streets are kept safe. We need to be aware of any construction going on that may not be permitted. She mentioned a furnace. That sounds like possibly a building permit situation, not necessarily one for encroachment permits.
I have one question. Is there a policy or standards maybe in your department when a community member contacts, like how long till they actually call them back? Is it 24 hours, 48 hours? What is that process? So that way people are not waiting.
I would say no longer than 24 is our goal. Often same day response is ideal. Sometimes when it does go from department to department, it kind of gets a little bit buried, but our goal is within 24 hours of provided response.
And if there is no response, do you have a suggestion?
Call again, or you can find me online as well. You have my direct contact. Well, there's a main number, and my engineering staff, they're there every day.
Okay, thank you.
Moving into discussion or a motion.
Not a motion yet, and I'm not even sure where I want to go with this. I'm probably just going to reflect and then go home and have to type my stuff up. But I guess, so even though the Sip and Scoop one was fire department, was that us or the fire department that installed that? Did they request it or did we put it there?
I'll have to double check if is it a backflow? Backflow preventers, that would be with the fire department. So, but we coincidentally also have the alleyway project going into there. So we'll have to double check into that.
So then I have a question. So if they had done it on their own, would they have needed an encroachment permit?
If the backflow preventer, if it's located in the street, yes. But then.
But because we did it, they didn't need it?
But additionally, there was in this case, the fire department, they did go through a design review with the city, so they do have an entitlement. So I have to verify where that backflow preventer is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my question. There's things that we see around the city sometimes that after the fact, we're like, this makes no sense, right? Like that made no sense to us as residents, like with our point of view to do that there, right? I mean, you probably saw the messages online, like the whole community was devastated that that was done. And now I'm a little bit more concerned hearing that the flock cameras happened by accident, when that should have been an encroachment permit that was fully vetted, correct?
Yes, the misunderstanding we had at staff that it was related to the city with the police department contract for flock. Now that we became aware of that situation, we are working on it. In hindsight, looking at the permit it was issued, it clearly states on that permit that was issued that it was an understanding that's part of the city project. So trust me, I'm fixing that solution. I'm fixing that. I have ongoing discussion with Flock right now. I know it's a pretty sensitive situation, but we should see some action on it pretty soon.
And then the other thing, and we've talked about this before, our roads are not looking that great. And when I see, and we've talked about Fairview, and now I'm thinking about San Jose, when we drive around town and people dig up the street and they patch it, it's looking like Raggedy Ann's dress. Like it looks like, I mean, if anyone is old enough to know what Raggedy Ann is, they're not looking good. So do you have a documented process on what it needs to look like when people close it up and leave? Is it just a patch, or do they have like a certain circumference around the hole? Because whatever they do, it's not looking good. And and so I guess my whole thing on encroachments is I'm a little disappointed in some of the things that I'm seeing. And I don't know how else to fix it besides, okay, I'm going to have to get involved. So I'm not saying that's what I want to do now, but I think we need to figure out a way where we don't feel like the need to even have to do that. Because we aren't engineers, right? But we have eyesight. Well, I do I mean, I wear my glasses where I can see, like, it looks bad, or the community's outraged, or, you know, all those things. So I just think we need to find a fix that is the right thing for our residents who pay for everything that we have here, right? We're doing work on their behalf, and that should be the best work possible. And that's my whole goal with this item is, I've seen a deterioration in some of the quality, and I know you guys are busy, but I don't, whatever we can do to help, let us know. And when I said, I don't know if you read online, Casey said no. So maybe you're not aware of what the public is saying. So how do we get you aware of what the public is saying? I thought you said no, you didn't know about the.
That's correct. We don't have anyone that monitors social media for comments. So if you would help us encourage residents when they see something, please call us or email us directly.
Okay.
We don't necessarily monitor all the different next door posts and things that are going on. We're happy to address anything that you guys see or that the residents see. Just please let us know that you can do that through the 24/7 app online, or you can just call us directly.
Yeah, so I think that's where I am right now. I just need to think about if there were a way for us to get involved, what does that look like? I'm not saying I'm going to bring that up tonight, but and let's see how it goes the next few months. And if we're seeing issues out in the public, then like we just need to figure it out. That's my only comments on this right now.
And I think for the sip and scoop, like the outrage happened after it was done. So none of us would have been able to bring it to your attention before because we didn't necessarily know about it until after the fact. So, and I brought it to our acting city manager.
Okay, if no more conversation, we are ready for a motion.
I don't think there's a motion. I think it's just informational, and you've heard our feedback, which is kind of one of the important things too, and then we'll just see how it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving into informational reports. This portion of the agenda is to provide an opportunity for council members to report on attendance at events, subcommittee meetings, and entities upon which the council member has been appointed as liaison, and for staff to provide brief updates and/or information to City Council. We will start to my right with Councilmember Mendoza.
Since the last time we met, I believe we had National Night Out, which was fantastic. Thank you to our police department who organizes that. It's always a lot of fun. Went to the Vine and Grain. They had like a soft opening and then a grand opening, so attended both of those. Attended the mayor's conference in Oakley. Watched the City of Pittsburgh City Council meeting just to hear about what they were all saying about data centers. And, kudos to all of those residents advocating for themselves. It was really good to watch. And I think that is it.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, good afternoon. I attended the Revolution Scholarship event at Sunset Park, where I announced the scholarship recipients. I want to offer a special thanks to East County Revolution and the Schaefers of Dutch Bros for their commitment to sports and to kids. They gave out a substantial number of scholarships that day. And then I attended the National Night Out event. I did want to say thank you to the staff for the foliage that was put at the for some reason, speaking tonight is hard to hear. But the foliage that is put at the corner of O'Hare and Sand Creek in the art installation, it looks really nice. So if you haven't seen it drive by, they cleaned it up and it's full and fluffed. I do have a question regarding the strip, an island that's between Sand Creek and Central on O'Hare. It looks really bad right now. It looks like, I don't know if we're responsible, but if we are, looks like we need to get someone out there to clean that up. And then as to my statements at the last city council meeting, I stand behind every word that I said. And to any person, no matter race, gender, equity, capacity or ethnicity, all I have to say is if the shoe fits, wear it.
Councilmember Orlemans?
Since our last council meeting, I attended the PAL board meeting, National Night Out. I also want to thank Officer Bollinger for putting all that together. The scheduling of that must have been a nightmare with that many different patrol cars going that many different locations. The last 3 years I have attended National Night Out, I stayed kind of within my district down here in District 4. This year I went up to the Somersets and got an education. It was really entertaining to be challenged at each one of their little booths and have those conversations, and not the original purpose of National Night Out, but I think it has morphed into a much better community gathering for, especially for the Somersets and some of the senior living centers that I visited this year. So thank you to the police department for putting that all together, and thank you for all the citizens that participated and were brave enough to voice their opinions and challenge us while we were there and ask all the questions that they did. Along with that, a gender review, and I think that was about it. Thank you.
Since our last meeting, I've attended the soft and grand opening of Vine and Grain. If you haven't checked it out, please stop by at the streets of Brentwood. It's filled with people now. It's kind of cool to see the transition. I also attended the grand opening of the Poke House on Lone Tree, off of Jeffrey and Lone Tree. That was really cool spot as well. I attended National Night Out. Thank you to Chris Bollinger for arranging everything. And I also rode with Captain Pert and Lieutenant Manow. So thank you guys for taking me to all those different places. I met with a couple of business owners at Streets of Brentwood and also downtown Brentwood. I addressed some of the illegal dumping issues that got brought to my attention off of Brentwood Boulevard to staff. Thank you, staff, for clearing the dumped furniture that was there. I also have been having ongoing conversations with some of our residents that are off of Valley Green in Minnesota regarding some of the vagrancy issues and ongoing discussions with the police department regarding the social nuisance ordinance that we just established. So I just want to thank the police department with addressing some of the city, our residents' concerns, and also anything from community enrichment. So thank you all.
Thank you. Since we met last, I attended a 100th birthday celebration at Merrill Gardens and presented a certificate. Had a meeting with Denise Cosgrove, the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce president. Also sat through hours of the Pittsburgh special meeting on the data center project, literally hours of public comments, including many from labor representatives who did not live in Pittsburgh. There's some controversy around that as well. Attended the Vine and Grain grand opening and presented a certificate to congratulate them on that move. Met with a local small business owner concerned about food trucks occupying space near brick and mortar businesses and that impact on their own business. Attended the Contra Costa County Mayor's Conference. It was held in Oakley, and a presentation was made by the Contra Costa Water District. Attended the quarterly Delta 6 meeting with Terrence, and that was a presentation from CCTA. In relation to an item on today's agenda, I reached out and spoke with 6 different cities in the county. I'll get into that a little bit later. I do want to mention too, I have been asked in the past kind of a tough question, and that is, why am I not stopping people from expressing themselves when they have frustration with what public comments are coming towards them, or what they're hearing from guests in the chambers, or for that matter on Zoom? It's kind of an interesting thing. I made a decision when I started facilitating meetings that I was not going to protest that. There have been times in the past year and a half where I felt like people have gone a bit far, but my consistent rule on this is that council is often attacked in ways that aren't fair or accurate. There are times when we feel attacked and it actually is accurate. So every one of us here has been on the other end of something really negative. Sometimes there's something behind it. Sometimes it's more like reading something online without really truly understanding what was behind it. So it's not anything other than a watch while people speak, understanding that there is oftentimes frustration around not being able to have discourse when people are making comments. We are not allowed to have a back and forth conversation when someone comes forward to make a public comment. And so oftentimes the frustration comes out during informationals. Again, this is not always the best practice. It's something that's been consistently, I am very well aware of it. I am watching it. Sometimes I'll have conversations with people after the fact. Sometimes I'll have conversations with staff about it after the fact. But at this point, that is the process I'm following. I do regret that sometimes people don't feel welcome to make comments because regardless of how you're feeling, you should be able to express yourself. There have definitely been times that have been really challenging for all of us to hear. But it's our job to listen. Again, even if we don't agree, we need to listen. It's our job to listen. But I'm going to stick with that policy until something really egregious happens and people stop making comments because they don't feel welcome doing that. It's very delicate and nuanced, and I do want to apologize to anyone who does not feel welcome making comments. I do hear that sometimes. I also hear staff feels like that sometimes. I know council members feel like that sometimes, like they can't say something without being attacked. So I just ask that we kind of all take a step back and watch and listen when people are speaking to us. Again, there are times when it actually makes sense and we're frustrated and we can't necessarily speak to you about the nuances behind decisions we make. We can't necessarily speak about something that's a litigious situation. So this is just me acknowledging that I know it can be frustrating on both sides. And so I'm just asking for all of us on both sides to have a little patience and understand that we have the right to speak, you have the right to speak. Hopefully we can all listen more than we speak. Thank you. Moving over to updates from Terrence first and then Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last meeting, I went to National Night Out as well. And I have to say, I talked to a wonderful little girl who said she wanted to be an officer or in the Army. And I said, what about a city manager? She said, no. It was great. It was a great time, though. So thanks to the Brentwood Police Department for that. Also, as indicated, Delta 6 meeting with the mayor. And then also, I did go out to the streets of Brentwood and met with Senator Cal and had a conversation with them about the future. We shared future activities and kind of plans from us as well. And then also met with DBC.
Two things I'll talk about. One is this Thursday we'll be holding the second meeting with youth who are interested in becoming attorneys or lawyers. I cast an invitation after the first meeting we did, after the Lions Club event, and invited anybody who was interested in becoming an attorney to set up an appointment at my office. And so we're going to be doing that this Thursday, meeting with youth, just sitting down, answering questions, explaining our pathways to becoming attorneys and seeing if we can help them if they're interested in that course of work. The second thing that I've been working on is a retirement party for my executive assistant, Yvette Tuland. And she's done 24 years of service to the city of Brentwood. And so I've been working with Shanna, I've been working with Kathy, I've been working with Casey, I've been working with staff members to try to put something together for her before she departs from the city on August 28th. So those are two special things that we've been working on.
You said 28 or 20th?
28th. 24 years.
Thank you, Terrence and Thomas.
Yes, I meant the date, 28th.
August 28th is
Okay,
the
thank
date
you.
of retirement, and she has worked for the city of Brentwood for 24 years.
Okay, next item is new agenda requests. Vice Mayor, I understand you have one?
I do. Thank you for the reminder. I would like to make a motion, I would like a future agenda item request to temporarily discontinue making any referrals to the REACH program for the juvenile, as it pertains to the juvenile diversion program, until we get a report on our process for referrals. Also, bless you. Also, until we get a report out on the demographics for race, gender, ethnicity for the minors who have been referred to the program for the last 3 years.
Any questions?
Oh, and I'm sorry, and the funding associated, how much we spend for the referral program.
Any questions for the Vice Mayor? Okay, thank you. Any other new agenda items? Okay, moving into requested future agenda items. Councilmember Orlemans, please introduce your item, which is consider a request from Councilmember Orlemans to display the national motto "In God We Trust" in the City Council chamber.
Yes, thank you. It was presented to me by a group of citizens within the city of Brentwood, and after looking at it, I thought it was a good idea, and so I'm moving it forward. It was passed by Congress in 1956. It's been our national motto, "In God We Trust," ever since. Oakley, our neighboring city, proudly displays the motto within their chambers since 2007. 149 cities and counties across California have already done so, along with 764 nationwide display this within their chambers. The city of Clovis approved and displayed the motto in February of this year. And they did a citywide survey, came up with 68% of the city supporting that motto being displayed within their council chambers. Placing the motto here would serve as a meaningful way to honor America's 250th anniversary this year.
Do we have, well, I was going to say, I have a lot of comments on this one, and if we have questions, I can take those now. Otherwise, we'll work into discussion later.
I have a question.
I was going to ask
Oh,
one quick
sorry.
question before. Sorry, I didn't say that. I should have done a search. I planned on doing it and forgot. Don't we have like 467 cities in the state? Maybe I'm off, but I thought I remembered that number, even if it's 267. 483? And how many cities are displaying that motto?
764.
Well, no, I mean, specifically for California.
Oh, I didn't do the entire state of California. I did the county.
Okay. All right. And then I guess if you have a question too, you can go ahead. I'll save my comments for when we're done with public comment.
I don't see the correlation between the 250 years and "In God We Trust." How do you see that correlation?
The national motto is a motto for the entire nation, and this is our 250th anniversary of being a nation. So it just seemed appropriate to me as in remembrance or in honor of their 250th anniversary, we begin to display it.
Yeah, but I guess I'm not seeing the correlation because the motto isn't 250 years old. Is there a motto maybe from 250 years ago that we could use that would be more? There's no correlation between the 250 and "In God We Trust." They're not connected. So to me, there's no history of 250 years with this statement. So I think that's where I was confused. Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving into comments on this item.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or after the timer has expired. We did receive 10 written public comments in advance of tonight's meeting, which are displayed on the screen. First speaker I have is Melissa.
Thank you very much. While I can respect a group coming forward and asking and you bringing it forward with all due respect, I think we do a lot of talk about making sure that all people feel welcome in this chamber to make public comment. As somebody who was raised Christian, my dad is a pastor, I get the sentiment 100%. However, I think it could potentially alienate a lot of residents who don't trust in God for whatever their personal reasons are. Also, the Constitution, which, our country, talking about our country being 250 years old, our Constitution clearly states that there should be a separation of church and state, and I believe that this violates that spirit. "In God We Trust" was added as our motto. "One Nation Under God" was added to our Pledge of Allegiance in 1956, which was at the tail end of the McCarthyism era and the Red Scare. And it is just one more thing that, sadly, I hate to say it, just kind of props up another way to divide people. That's it. Thank you.
Next speaker is Oksana.
Hello, council members, Mayor Myers, city staff. You guys know me. I'm always a big fan of anything like this. One of the things I do like is the Pledge of Allegiance, like with liberty under God, indivisible with justice. So we say this on a regular basis. It's all over our coins, and I just think it's a very valuable way to represent America. We see it everywhere as a national symbol, and so I'm actually really excited about this item. So thank you for your consideration.
I have no additional speaker cards in person or hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. I'm going to start on this one because I have some strong feelings about it. First thing, the person or the group that wrote the letter to you is actually not accurate about Oakley. It's not in their chambers. It's in their lobby of their building. That was one of the 6 cities that I spoke with. I spoke to Oakley, Pittsburgh, Concord, Clayton, Hercules, and Orinda to ask if any of them, first of all, had this displayed in their chambers, behind the dais, wherever in the chambers, or if they had any knowledge of any discussions happening. None of them did. Oakley clarified with their city manager that the pluribus unum was on the entrance to one city lobby door, and In God We Trust was on the other, so it's actually not in the chambers. In fact, in their chambers, they are working on a mural behind the dais that is focused on very local activities and local highlights and things that they're very proud of that way. With that, there aren't actually any cities in Contra Costa County that are currently displaying this in their chambers. I believe there's one in Alameda, but there are very few in the Bay Area. I did see Clovis, Lathrop, Bakersfield. I know that there's a group called In God We Trust America.org that was started by a council member out of Bakersfield who called this Charlie Kirk movement, I should say, in some of the things I read, and considers California to be a victory, and then states that have not adopted this to be a non-victory. And I will say, again, if we're just looking at a total statewide, it's a very small percentage of the total amount of cities in California. I do agree that this does not feel inclusive to me. This feels more divisive. We have a lot of religions that either do not worship a god or worship God by a different name. And this is something that we've been trying to work on as a council to be inclusive. Clovis actually went through a significant amount of work before they agreed to do this. They did multiple outreach efforts, including a representative survey, an open survey, 4 Meet the Mayor and City Manager meetings, a dedicated engagement page on the city website, promotion through city social media platforms, coverage by local media outlets. I feel like as a city, we are focused on local control. This feels like something that does not align with local control. It feels like something else kind of encroaching on our rights to represent all of our residents. I don't see that there's a problem to fix, so I'm not sure what we're trying to fix here. Let's see, I'm trying to make sure if I've got everything in here. The 10 comments that we received, I believe they were all through email. I had the chance to look through some. Every one that I saw was a form letter. So they weren't individual, independent comments. They were a form letter signed by mostly residents of Brentwood, but not all residents of Brentwood. It was interesting to see that at Cal City's conference last year in 2025 in Long Beach, there was a booth by this group. The In God We Trust America.org. And by the way, what they say on their website is people are standing taller, speaking louder, and boldly declaring that our trust belongs in God, not government. So while we are talking about this as being a slogan, motto, this page that is promoting this and calling it victories when cities adopt it are more speaking about it in terms of faith. Double checking notes. I don't know that I have anything else. I think that is it for me, but as you can probably tell, I am not in support of this. I feel like it's divisive instead of inclusive. I don't see what we're trying to fix. We already have the flag proudly displayed. We already do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I know that we actually have residents who are not comfortable with the Pledge of Allegiance, and sometimes will sit it out and not stand and join us. So in trying to respect beliefs, I do not think this is a good idea to move forward. Who would like to speak next?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
So one, I say, in God I do trust, but I looked this thing up. I just searched like chat or something just now, and it says 136 cities currently have it in their chambers. I don't know how reliable that is, but I am all about inclusivity and equity, and so I do agree with Melissa's statements. However, I would support a motion because last week when I brought up that Christmas was associated with Christianity, and that I felt like we needed to be inclusive for supporting organizations and giving money to Santa in the Park because Santa's connected to Christmas and Christmas is connected to Christianity. There was pushback that other cities do this. And I said, if we set this precedence to start saying other cities do something, I'm going to begin to say we can't choose when we're going to support that other cities do things and then we don't. And I felt like putting a lot of money towards an event called Santa in the Park versus the Winter Festival or those things that make our residents feel more inclusive, there was pushback that I don't mind Santa in the Park and it's connected. So since we made that vote, I wholeheartedly, if you make this, I would support it because I think we need to be consistent. I don't think we support one or the other, but I completely agree with what you said, Melissa. I think you're absolutely correct. And in God, I do trust. But yeah, and I think having it above our heads would make some people who don't believe in God or who believe in other their gods, they may not feel it's inclusive. However, we've set a precedence, so I would support it if you bring it forward.
I do want to just real quickly answer the question or my thoughts on the divisiveness of having a set of words that is our national motto displayed within our city council is, I don't know, it kind of hurts a little bit in the sense of what I've done for my entire life protecting the country. And there are people that don't like that American flag, but we still fly it. You've said there are people that don't like us saying the Pledge of Allegiance, but we still do it. There are very few things within our council that we do just because something's broken, we need to fix it. We do things because it's what we want to do and it represents what our council believes. I'm not going to jump up and down and hold my breath and be horribly upset should this not pass, but it's the sense that it doesn't have to be a fix. It has to be what I believe in, and that's why I brought it forward. I was asked to, so I brought it forward, and it's our national motto. It is brought forward as our national motto, just as I respect that flag and just as I respect saying the Pledge of Allegiance every time I do it and wearing the uniforms I've wore over the last 40 years of my life to represent all of those things. That's it. It's not to divide our country. It's not to divide our citizens. Flying flags out in front of City Hall could be could be divisive in some way to our community. So it's what our council believes, and that's all I'm looking for is what do we want to do as a council.
Understood.
I want to clarify, not to the point of me agreeing with the word divisive, but it lacks inclusivity. I want to clarify that. Thank you.
Any comments?
This is a very difficult topic for me because some of you might not know my childhood, but my childhood was horrific due to religion. I was parentally abducted to the Middle East after being born in Chicago because my father was Muslim and my mom was Catholic. And my whole life got ruined because of religion. I believe in freedom of religion, but I'm not pushing it on anybody. This is a welcoming place for everybody, and this is very triggering. Very triggering. So, no, thank you. I'm just telling you my emotion. So I will not be participating in any vote. I'm abstaining.
Comments?
Um, I mean, again, like, I think everyone knows I'm Catholic. To me, my religion is first, and then like me as my race, and then like an American, like, you know, it's my religion, the blood I have inside of me, and then where I was born. So it's not like I don't love God. I mean, I collection in church every single day of my youth. I worked in our parish office every single day. Religion is so important to me that I sent my kids to Catholic school for their elementary school years. But I do think it's divisive, and that is the word I use. I think that there is a lot of us who might not use the word God in the Pledge of Allegiance because it was not there originally. And I do believe in a separation because I always want to be welcoming to everyone who is not Christian. I told Faye to, I was like, I was raised in the 70s at a Catholic school by hippies, and we welcomed all religions. We had Jewish kids, Baptist kids. We had everyone at St. Leander's. Anyone who didn't want to go to public school in Oakland came over to St. Leander's. And I feel very blessed for having been raised there. But it just feels icky. 2.4%. So I looked up the statistics that you said, 483 cities have it. Out of all of the cities in the country, it's 2.4%. So it's not something that's really prevalent in the United States. And again, I think that it's a narrative that people are using to honor the 250th because it sounds like a really good sales pitch, but there is no correlation between 250 years and In God We Trust. That's someone on a website trying to use that. Also, I don't know who sent the email, right? Is it like a Christian cult? Is it like someone who's extreme? I don't know who sent it. So it just feels weird. I wish they would have all gotten up and spoken at the podium so we could have known who they are, but I don't want to support something that might be something sinister. I don't. I understand what you're saying about Santa. I don't see Santa as a Christian thing. I celebrate Christmas, but my nativity scent that I have with the baby Jesus and everyone else, that is my Christmas, right? Everything else to me is marketing. So I see that they're mutually exclusive because we don't celebrate Santa in my house as a Catholic. It's always about the birth of Jesus Christ. Santa is a marketing thing. And we've always been told growing up that it was a marketing thing, just like the Easter Bunny, because Jesus would send me my Easter baskets. So that's how I feel about it. I do think it's divisive, and we don't all have to agree about how we feel about it. Our Muslim population is one of the fastest growing populations that we have in the city of Brentwood, and it would break my heart to hurt any single one of them. And that's what this feels like it's doing.
But if I can add, it's not just Muslim population. We have Sikh, we have Indian, we have so many different religions. And that's the one wonderful thing about this country is that we do have that freedom of religion. But the importance of separating church and government is so valid, so everybody could be comfortable here. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about America is that we can be here ourselves. We can practice any religion that we want. And we can be whomever we want, get whatever job, be a woman, get the same job as a man. All these different equalities that we have here are beyond phenomenal. And it's because we are America. So I wouldn't want to damper that.
Very well said, Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you.
And I agree 100% and still don't understand how In God We Trust would change that. So I'm going to make a motion that staff spend time and resources on placing the motto in God, the national motto of the United States in the chambers, In God We Trust. Is that clear?
And I'll second your motion based on what I said before.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposition? No.
I'm abstaining.
So with a 2-2 vote, the item does not move forward. Okay. Thank you. Good discussion. All right, so I.2. This is a request from Councilmember Mendoza to discuss private flock camera permitting, data access, and removal authority. Councilmember, please introduce your item.
So I think we talked a little bit about this on encroachment permits, but I just want to understand how this would happen if someone in an HOA wanted one. are we okay with it? You know, what are their MOUs? What are their contracts say? How do they differ from a police department's MOUs and a police department's contract? Because my understanding is they can be different. You know, while our agencies have strict California requirements that they cannot share information out, that's not the same guidelines for a private entity. So our gardeners who are, you know, because that's who I think about. I think about the people I see on my street, my people. And could they be followed? Could they be taken away if someone from a private entity puts it into a system and finds someone? Like, that just would not feel right. But I would like to talk about, and the other thing about this one is, it is the area where if your kids go to Heritage or Adams, it is so busy with kids, and it just feels weird to me that all of these kids are being surveilled, because that's what it is. It is mass surveillance. And knowing that Flock is testing facial recognition right now in different parts of the country, I would not want our children's faces all over every single day they go to school. It just feels ick. And so, I mean, I think we're going to get more information about you, about what you're doing, and we might not even need to move this forward based on what you say, but those were my concerns.
Okay, do we have any questions for Councilmember Mendoza at this point? And if not, should we move into public comments?
At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand to speak. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or when the timer has expired. We did receive one written public in advance of tonight's meeting, which is displayed on the screen. I have 3 public speakers in person on this one. First speaker is Nathan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Nathan. I'm a resident of the Shallow Lakes neighborhood. I'm here tonight about the flock cameras that were recently installed by the Shallow Lakes HOA in my neighborhood. The Shallow Lakes HOA has installed multiple flock cameras in my neighborhood, including one directly on my street where I live. My street is not part of that HOA. This is not a gated community. It's a public street, and the people driving on it aren't all members of that HOA. If the city wants cameras on public streets, that's a decision that should be made by the city with public oversight. It shouldn't be something a private organization can decide on its own. And this matters because Flocks isn't simply a normal security camera. These cameras collect license plates, vehicle descriptions, locations, dates, and times. It is creating a searchable database on everyone who passes by. That means this isn't only about people suspected of committing crimes, it's about everyone who drives past these cameras. And once that information is collected, there are serious questions about who can access it, how it can be shared, how long it is retained, and how the system can be used in the future. We've already seen other cities reach the point where they decided those questions weren't being answered well enough. To give some examples, Mountain View, California terminated its flock program after an audit found that federal and state law enforcement agencies had access to cities' flock data in ways that violated the city's approval policies. Santa Cruz, California terminated its flock contract over concerns about access to its license plate data by outside agencies and privacy concerns. The Los Angeles Police Department just recently allowed its flock contract to expire in July. The department cited unresolved concerns involving privacy, data ownership, data sharing, and security. And just a few days ago, Chandler, Arizona announced that it was discontinuing its use of flock cameras. Chandler's routine audit found an unexplained anomaly in the use of flock system. The city couldn't explain what it found through normal activity, so it restricted access and began investigating possible misuse rather than simply ignoring it. The city found activity it couldn't explain and decided that was serious enough to stop using the system while it investigated. And then there's Roseville, California, which raises a completely different issue: accuracy. Roseville's own police data raises serious questions about the accuracy of Flock's alerts. Between 2023 and 2024, Flock sent Roseville police 1,427 alerts involving vehicles flagged as stolen or associated with a felony. And 71% of those alerts, Flock had incorrectly read the license plate. And those aren't harmless mistakes. A false plate read can cause police to focus on the wrong vehicle and waste city resources and waste the time of our police while real crime is happening. We have a real example of exactly how bad that can become. I'm gonna run out of time, but thank you guys.
Can I just say thank you to Nathan for sitting through this whole meeting just for this item?
Yep, no problem.
Next speaker is Sue.
My name is Sue Harper, and I'm a homeowner in Shadow Lakes community. I'm here tonight because I believe it is important that this discussion surrounding Shadow Lakes be based on accurate information. I understand that the city may wish to have a broader discussion about license plate recognition technology and whether additional policies should apply to private entities. I respect the discussion, and I understand that reasonable people have different opinions. However, I respectfully ask that Shadow Lakes not be portrayed as having acted improperly. The association followed the city's permitting process, obtained the required approvals, and complied with applicable laws and requirements before installing the flock safety cameras. The cameras were purchased with association funds to help deter crime and assist the Brentwood Police Department with criminal investigations. As a homeowner, I observed that information about the proposed system was shared through community newsletters, board meetings, and neighborhood watch communications. Residents had opportunities to learn about the project and ask questions. The board has since voluntarily eliminated its own administrative access to Flock. Access is now limited to professional management and authorized management personnel. The board is also preparing a formal Flock safety camera policy addressing access, privacy, and use of the system, which will be provided to homeowners for the required 28-day review and comment period before consideration for adoption. I respectfully ask that tonight's discussion distinguish between a broader policy debate about the future and the actions of an association that has followed the laws and procedures in place at the time. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next speaker is Melissa.
So I feel like we're here on this little bit of a slippery slope. And the last time flock cameras were brought up to be used with our police department, I stood up then and spoke about them then. That was in March of last year. And from what I could find since then, there has been 24 or so, probably more, but like I said, what I could find since March of last year, 24 complaints or lawsuits brought against Flock for their practices. We were sat here and given a whole line about how the only people who had access to Flock were XYZ. However, we've found out in the last year plus that that is actually untrue. And it is being accessed by entities that were not supposed to have access to it, or information that was being shared with entities that information was not supposed to be shared with. And that doesn't even take into account the ease of access for hackers to these camera systems, which is enormously easy if you have the know-how and the correct equipment. And so I'm glad I'm not part of an HOA. I will say that. I don't know why a private entity like an HOA needs additional flock cameras in a city that already contracts with Flock for surveillance. I am frankly very worried about the state of surveillance in our country. And just doing a quick search, because it is all public record on the Brentwood PD website, the Shadow Lakes region, I think, has had 3 like car accessory part thefts since the beginning of this year, which in the grand scheme of things isn't many, but I would like to question why an HOA feels the need for flock cameras, and why the city hasn't had anything in place up until now requiring them to come forward and present a permit request, much the same way that many other developers or whatnot need to do. I would like this agenda item to move forward. I do think it's an important item to address. And I do think that it puts a lot of people that we live side by side with at risk. Thank you.
Next speaker is Stephanie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I support bringing this back as a formal agenda item. As technology like Flock expands, I think it's important that our policies and our safeguards keep pace with it. The police department has a policy regarding automatic license plate readers that they're governed by, and I think the question raised tonight about privately operated cameras deserves a deeper conversation. For me, there are several questions I'd like to better understand, such as what is the city's process for determining where these types of privately operated cameras can be installed, particularly when they're capturing vehicles and individuals traveling on public streets? Who owns and has access to that data? How long is it retained? Can it be shared with agencies outside Brentwood, including state and federal agencies, and under what circumstances? What auditing exists so we know who is accessing the system and for what purposes? So I support bringing this item back and having a thoughtful public discussion about what appropriate guardrails should be implemented in our city. Thank you.
I have no additional speakers in person, and I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. I did want to make a quick announcement. I don't think it's an issue considering the agenda item proposed is more general, but I am a Shadow Lakes resident and I do pay HOA fees. So just double checking that there's not an issue with this out of transparency.
Being a resident of actual Shadow Lakes, you're in the actual. You're saying you're in the actual HOA in which
Yes.
the policy is being.
We pay HOA fees.
That is a different standing than somebody who is just a general member of the public who's observing the policy. So I would advise you not to participate. Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting out of here, and the vice mayor is going to have to lead this one. Sorry to throw this on you. I just thought I better make a statement about it. Am I required to go into closed session, Thomas? Okay, thank you. I'll see you in a little bit. And just to be clear, I don't support block cameras in my HOA.
Okay, is there any council discussion on this item?
So I think can we start with Alan, like what you found since the last time we met?
Thank you for the opportunity, Councilmember Mendoza. So it sounds like there's three topics. I can speak on the encroachment permit process. Like I said, the encroachment permit was issued with the mistaken understanding of that particular application being part of the greater, city police department agreement with Flock. Like I said, I'm working on rectifying that as quickly as possible. So any cameras that were installed in the public right-of-way that's not in coordination with the police contract will have to be removed. I might add that that doesn't prevent, and I'm not sure if there are any safeguards in place to prevent these Flock cameras to then be relocated onto private property, where they could similarly be facing the public streets. I'm not sure if there's any restrictions on that. So that's all I had to say about the encroachment permit process. Like I said, it's under all. As a general rule of thumb, and one that we follow, is we do not allow cameras or other devices to be attached to city poles, city infrastructure, or in a public right-of-way without a proper agreement in place. And like I said, the ones that were issued for Shadow Lakes were under that pretense. And, you know, the flock group that actually applied for the permit, they never clarified with us on that. And so we're fixing that right now.
Okay, so I guess my desire here is to have a policy in place. If someone, because, and I did get an email from another HOA, everyone on the, they said they took theirs away, but everyone on the HOA has access on their board to the data. And the other thing is, yes, they have a management company. We don't know who that management company is. Like, we haven't done a background check. We don't know if they're stalking anyone. So I think we need a tighter process in place if someone outside of the police department wants it. And it should probably come to council and get public input so that their neighbors get a say on what they want. But that's, right now, we're not talking about anything with the police ones right now. I don't think, and I also don't think their MOU and their contract is the same. Where our police department cannot share this out of state, I don't think theirs are the same. I think theirs is like a no-hold bar. They can do whatever they want, which is a little bit scary. So that's what I would like to move forward, is to just come up with a policy. Do we want it? Do we not want it? And if we do want it, what are the steps that a private entity would have to take to have these installed?
Any other discussion?
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, I just want to get some point of clarification. I certainly understand the conversation. I think this particular issue aside, I do want to make sure that I understand if the clarification is specifically around flock cameras, or is this around cameras in general? And the reason I say that is because certainly there are other providers. I recognize flock is unique, but I want to make sure that, assuming this item moves forward, will the direction be specifically around the flock network, or is this around the installation of other related or similar devices? And so that as we work with our attorney, we really understand kind of the delineation there.
Yeah, I would say it's flock and similar technology is what I would say. I had a discussion with an executive at Google, and what her comment is that she's like, people are equating these to your Ring camera. She's like, these are nothing like your Ring camera. You can't sit there, an IT person can't go in and sit there and put in a license plate and figure out every single place this person has been. These cameras, that's what they do. You can go in and type in a number, and you can see where this person has driven and their route. And it's mass surveillance. And I think we need guardrails around that. So I'm glad that we're going to take down the ones at Shadow Lakes. I think this needs to be a more robust discussion and have the public, and in this case, I think the student body at Heritage and Adams and their parents understanding what's going on. But yeah, it's anything with similar technology.
I think for me, there is a difference between flock cameras that are within the police department's purview versus just private citizens having them in public areas that are not necessarily affecting their HOA on their own properties, but they're actually utilizing city properties. And I would probably say that there needs to be better accountability measures, and I don't agree with a group of people having access to that data.
Yeah, the difference between the flock cameras versus the Ring and all the other surveillance cameras that are out there is a huge distinction in the search process. You got to watch the Ring camera from start to finish to find out when something happened in front of that camera. I'm supporting this because I want it to move forward. I want to have this discussion to figure out where this is going to go. But my understanding is on this private side of it, those searches aren't available. But I would like that to be really clearly marked out within our city before we decided to move forward with it. So I think it's a great idea. Thanks.
And thank you for bringing this forward. I do find it, I'm really concerned about this. I actually wholeheartedly believe just on the liveliness of the conversation that we should bring this forward, but also on the potential issues with the protection of private, privacy, rights of privacy. Well, in public spaces, I don't know about rights of privacy, but just information sharing. I am deeply concerned. So I would wholeheartedly support a motion to bring this back. And with that said, is there any clarifications on any of the discussion, or would we like to consider a motion?
I would like to have staff spend time and money to come back to us with information on private usage of Flock within our city. And then if we decide that it's something we want to continue with, we can come up with a process along with staff on if those get installed or not.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Madam Mayor, come on back. As the mayor comes in, I think we'll start just calling it I3, consider a request from Mayor Meyer to establish a city council legislative committee, and the mayor will introduce the next item when she comes to the dais. Someone went and got her, I think. Yeah, someone went to get her. And I already called your item, so we're waiting for you to introduce your item when you get settled.
Thank you. Before I do, though, question, Thomas. In general, did this item come forward specific to Shadow Lakes or more general? So I know if I need to recuse myself when it comes back?
So the item came back with research on flock cameras and then consideration of a policy for the city after that. And so if it's a broader policy and not particular to the Shadow Lakes neighborhood, then you can participate again.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay. My item is consideration to establish a city council legislative committee. This is something I've been thinking about for a long time, and like the vice mayor, I worked for the state. I actually worked for senator for a couple years, which kind of encouraged advocacy at the state level, taught me some things that how cities can kind of interact and advocate to the state senators and assembly members. So this is not new. I've brought this up before. It hasn't gone anywhere. I asked previous city managers who are no longer here if we could potentially look at an internship when we're doing interns, if we could look at a high school class to volunteer. Like I was kind of trying to present different options and nothing came through, like I said. Bringing it back again was sparked by the fact that we're now working with Townsend and Associates. So my thought is this would allow us to get very specific in the kinds of advocacy that we're doing for the city, related to things that are issues for us specifically. That word is significant here. We receive on a regular basis emails from Cal Cities, which if you're not familiar with them, basically they're a collection of, it's a collective of cities that lobby for, they lobby for all the cities across the state. They don't always align with our viewpoints. They don't always necessarily cover all the issues that we're interested in. One issue in particular, I was noting in looking at a recent one of their newsletters, there was nothing in there about aging and disabilities, which happens to be a lot of my background. This is just one example. By 2030, 1 in 4 Californians is going to be age 60 or over, and we're not really doing a lot about that. So Brentwood has the highest percentage of older adults in all of East County. It feels like something we should be really thinking about. We've got the Aging and Disabilities Committee, the Vice Mayor and I sit on. So I would like to start looking at advocacy that relates to those issues that have come forward from residents multiple times. That's one example. We have a process in place at this point that if Cal Cities sends a request for a letter and it's something that we're aligned with, we don't have to come before council. I can sign it, staff can request it from me, I can sign it, and it gets sent out. But if there is something that we're interested in that Cal Cities is not, we do not have a process for that. So this would allow us to kind of get a little bit more in depth with that and potentially get more out of our relationship with Townsend and Associates. and be kind of, again, more targeted. What I'm not sure about is whether Townsend and Associates charges us a flat rate, whether it's project-based, whether it's, I seriously doubt it's hourly, but I'm trying to make sure that if we do move forward with something like this, that it's not going to impact the budget significantly, it's not going to impact the work that we're getting from them and reduce something in another very important area. And then my last thing on this, I think, would be the fact that this could be an ad hoc. I don't know that it needs to be a standing committee because the legislative cycle is limited. So it could be for a particular part of the year so that during that year, the committee meets. If there's an opportunity, we go to the Capitol. We advocate on things that are interesting, that are relevant to us. So that is my agenda item. Are there questions?
Would you be amenable to adding one other thing to the committee, and that is that the committee will also engage elected officials on the city's initiatives, council initiatives, so we have more of a heavier relationship with making sure that the elected officials know what we want?
Yeah, I think that's a very good
what
idea.
we don't like that they do.
Right? Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. And I think some of that's going to be tricky depending on relationships that we have with our elected officials.
The ones that
But
like us, the ones
we
that
have the
don't.
right to speak out to them just as much as everyone does to us.
We're their constituents, so they need to hear it, right?
So yes, I would absolutely add that. Any other questions? Okay, then we can move into public comments.
At this time, the public is permitted to address City Council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or after the timer has expired. I have no requests in person, and I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. Any discussion on this?
I really like this one. Thank you for bringing it back. I agree, ad hoc makes more sense just because of the legislative calendar. And also, I was a little concerned when we voted to go ahead and just it felt arbitrary, like we're just signing on with the league. And I wanted to see that somebody who sits here is vetting more, vetting what we do sign on, because some of the stuff we have possibly supported, I don't know that I support it. And I would have liked that at least one of the representatives that we all agree to vote into that ad hoc committee is actually vetting more. So thank you for bringing this. I think it's awesome. And I really appreciate the addition of having someone who, no matter if they like it or not, will hear us talking.
No other comments. Okay, and again, this is something that the discussion would be more related to when council launches the new year, when we start talking about committee assignments, that sort of thing. But this was just to kind of get the conversation going, so it would be ready to go then. But I do want to make sure that the question about staff capacity and budget for Townsend and Associates, those things are covered as well. So if there are no questions from staff on this?
No questions, Mayor. We understand, and certainly we'll confirm when we bring this back the budget that we have for Townsend and make some general kind of recommendations about timeline when we bring it back.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I'm going to make a motion. I move that staff spend time and resources to establish a legislative ad hoc committee.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The item moves forward. And I believe we are down to our final motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. And I also wanted to add that former council member Claudette Staten's husband passed away. So just keeping her and her family in your thoughts and prayers. But
Thank you.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.